This is Audible.
Oh, Come All Ye Kellys. Love and Luck, Book 7. Written by Isla Olson. Narrated by Nick J. Russo. Chapter 1. Eileen Kelly. Change of plans, everyone. Brendan and Wade will be home with the baby in a few hours, so we're relocating to their house for the Christmas party. Kate Kelly replied to Eileen Kelly. Are you sure they'll be okay with all of us just inviting ourselves over? Eileen Kelly replied to Kate Kelly. Of course. Why wouldn't they be? Kate Kelly replied to Eileen Kelly. Because they have a brand new baby. Maybe they want to spend some time alone with her? Eileen Kelly replied to Kate Kelly. Don't be ridiculous. They'll be thrilled to see us all. Besides, Baxter will want to meet his new sister. Connor Kelly. Did they really call her Aria? Eileen Kelly replied to Connor Kelly. Yes, it's pretty, isn't it? Liam Kelly. Are they expecting her to grow up and slay the Night King? Declan Kelly replied to Bridie Kelly. I think that's their hope. Finn Kelly replied to Liam Kelly. Dude, spoilers! Liam Kelly replied to Finn Kelly. Eye roll emoji. Trust me, man, I didn't spoil anything. Shay Kelly. I'm all for meeting the new tyke, but how are we going to have a proper party at Brendan's? Won't the baby need sleep? Eileen Kelly replied to Shay Kelly. Anyone who wants to continue on can come back to our place later. Elena Martin Kelly replied to Eileen Kelly. Where is the eggnog going to be? Eileen Kelly replied to Elena Martin Kelly. I've made 2 batches, so there's one for each house. Connor Kelly. Has Da made the mulled wine? Eileen Kelly replied to Connor Kelly. He's making it now. Bridie Kelly. Oh God, can someone please keep my husband away from Dad's wine? I swear our bathroom tiles still have a pink tinge to them after he spewed all over them last year. Liam Kelly replied to Bridie Kelly. Ew, that's disgusting. I use that bathroom occasionally. I don't need to be thinking about Mark spewing red guck all over the place when I'm trying to drop a deuce. Bridie Kelly replied to Liam Kelly. I don't need you to be dropping a deuce in my bathroom. Connor Kelly replied to Liam Kelly. Why are you pooping at Bridie's place occasionally? Liam Kelly replied to Connor Kelly. We're doing a complete remodel of the house 2 doors down from theirs, and her bathroom is way nicer than the porta potty. Of course, that was before I knew about Mark spewing all over the floor. Bridie Kelly replied to Liam Kelly. You break into my house in the middle of the day just to take a dump? Liam Kelly replied to Bridie Kelly. Jeez, calm down, woman. I don't break in. I know where the key is. Bridie Kelly replied to Liam Kelly. What? How? Declan Kelly replied to Bridie Kelly. Everyone knows where the key is, brides. Kate Kelly. In the turtle. Owen Kelly. It's in the turtle. Finn Kelly replied to Bridie Kelly. No one keeps an ugly turtle on their doorstep unless it's to hide a key. Chapter 2. Finn. When I get to the address Mom gave me for my brother Brendan's new place, well, new in the sense that I haven't had a chance to visit since he and his boyfriend moved in about 9 months ago, I have to do a couple laps of the street before I can find somewhere to park. It seems we're not the only people on this street having a holiday party tonight. There is a free spot in the driveway, but according to a phone call I got about 20 minutes ago from my oldest brother Shay, Brendan and Wade haven't arrived home yet, and I'm not going to be the asshole who takes their parking space and makes them walk halfway up the street with a newborn baby, especially when it's fucking freezing out. I get out of the car and pull on my coat before slamming the driver door and crossing the wet road over to the side of the street that Brendan's house is on. My feet crunch over old snow as I travel down the sidewalk, eventually arriving at my brother's house. It's a nice little brick house that Brendan renovated himself. It actually previously belonged to Wade's grandmother and had been sitting unused for years after copping quite a bit of damage from Hurricane Sandy. But it looks great now, although it's a lot smaller than my parents' place, which is only a few streets away, so it'll be interesting to see how the entire Kelly family actually fits in the smaller area. I press the doorbell and it's answered by Liam, one of my other brothers. I have 7, who seems to have made himself at home in Brendan's place. They're not here yet, he grumbles, motioning toward a chair in the entrance where everyone seems to have dumped their coats, before leading me through the hallway to the kitchen at the back of the house and offering me a beer from the fridge. I take the beer and snap off the cap, then scan my gaze around the living room/dining area. As if my eyes are being drawn to her like magnets, I see Ellie, one of the few people here that I'm not related to, across the other side of the room. She's sitting on the arm of the sofa and chatting with 2 of my younger brothers, Aiden and Declan. I draw in a deep, steadying breath as my eyes scan over her. She's wearing a wine-red sweater dress that cuts off around mid-thigh and knee-high black leather boots that I'm positive were made to be propped against my shoulders. Her lips are the same color as her dress, and her rich golden hair is done in long, soft waves that fall all down her back. Fuck. I'm so dead. As if sensing my gaze on her, she turns from her conversation, her sea-green eyes flashing as she catches me watching her. Her mouth quirking in amusement, she says something to Aiden and then rises from her perch, stalking across the room toward me. Finnegan, she purrs in that husky voice that sends blood straight to my cock. I should point out for the record that, in my case, Finn is in no way short for Finnegan. I return her smile. Ellie cat. Her gaze slowly travels up and down my body, and then she draws in a deep breath, letting it out slowly. Narrowing her eyes at me, she says, "If you thought coming here smelling like a rainforest and wearing a sweater so thin it hides literally none of your abs would break me, you were mistaken." I managed to give a nonchalant shrug, despite the fact that her attitude has me so turned on, I'm practically vibrating. And you should know, those boots do absolutely nothing for me. I lie. And that dress, I shake my head sadly. It's hideous. You should just take it off. Her face splits into a teasing grin. Nice try, sweetie. But if you want to see me naked again, you know what you have to do. You let me see you naked when Cass is there, I point out, unable to stop my face from forming a pout. That's different, Ellie says simply. Cass is there. Cass is the third point of our little triangle, and honestly, probably the only reason I haven't actually exploded since Ellie and I made what seemed like a fun wager at the time. I'm about to respond when there's a commotion behind me, and I turn around to see Brendan and Wade have finally arrived home with their new baby girl, Arya. Of course, this leads to a whole lot of fussing over the baby and handing her around from person to person. I can admit she's pretty cute, but I'm happy to stand back and admire her from a distance. Kids I can handle okay, but babies, and especially babies this small, scare me a little. I just worry I might drop them or break them or something. Okay, seriously, what's the deal with you and Ellie? Shay asks me once the baby fuss has died down a little. As if those words are like a radio signal, my other brothers, as well as Declan's husband Heath, all join the conversation too. Are you secretly together but pretending not to be? Brendan asks. Because if that's the case, you seriously suck at pretending. Yeah, Jamie and I were way better liars, Shay says. No way. Heath gives a sharp shake of his head. Deck and I are the best liars here. None of you knew we were fake. I knew, Connor pipes in. Shay rolls his eyes. Technicality. I still claim it doesn't count because they weren't really faking. They only thought they were faking because they didn't realize it was real yet. No, we're not together, I say firmly, returning the conversation to Ellie. I mean, we were. Sort of, I guess. I don't know. But now they're playing chicken. Aiden finishes for me. Of course he'd know what the whole deal is, being Ellie's best friend and everything. They're denying each other sex, and whoever cracks first and begs for it is the loser. A whole bunch of wide, incredulous eyes fix themselves on me. Dude, are you insane? Brendan asks, his mouth agape. Stop being a dick and go have sex with your woman. Liam practically growls. Hell no. No one is having sex in this house. Except me and Wade, obviously, Brendan says, folding his arms over his chest. We're going back to Michael and Eileen's later. You can use the upstairs bathroom there, Heath says helpfully. Deck and I have used it before. It's pretty soundproof. Owen shakes his head. It's not soundproof. It doesn't matter. I'm not having sex at Mom and Dad's house, I say. There are some awkward glances exchanged between my siblings and their partners. The kind of awkward glances that make me wonder just how many of them might have snuck off to an empty bathroom or spare bedroom at some point during the many family gatherings my parents have hosted at our childhood home. Well, you need to do it somewhere, Liam says. This chicken thing is ridiculous. You both clearly want each other. Exactly, I say with a grin. She wants me just as much as I want her. So if I have just a tiny bit more willpower, I'll win. Shay lets out a soft chuckle, shaking his head. You're an idiot. You realize the only reason you've survived this long is because you live in different states, right? I shrug. Probably. A little later on, I'm just coming out of the bathroom when Ellie intercepts me. You like Blake Shelton, right? She asks. I nod. The chick from Gossip Girl? Yeah, she's like top 10, easily. She shakes her head, an amused smile touching her lips. No, Dumbo, that's Blake Lively. Blake Shelton is the country singer who's dating Gwen Stefani. I blink at her in confusion. Why are you asking me about a country singer? Because we're going back to your parents' place for Christmas karaoke, and I want us to sing one of their songs. One of whose songs? She tosses her hair back in frustration. Duh, Gwen Stefani and Blake Shelton. But I don't know any of their songs, I say. Wait, is he the one from No Doubt? I know some of their songs. Ellie rolls her eyes. No, she divorced the guy from No Doubt. This is a different guy. My brows shoot up. You know a scary amount about Gwen Stefani's romantic life. Everyone knows this, Finn. It's weird that you don't. As if on cue, my phone buzzes in my pocket and I pull it out to see a text from Cass. Cass Myers. How do you not know who Blake Shelton is? I stare open-mouthed at the text for a moment before glancing back up at Ellie, who's wearing an evil smirk. For the first time, I notice she's holding her phone in one hand, and I let out a groan of annoyance. The girl has a superpower that lets her text without looking at her phone. Clearly, she texted Cass while she and I were talking. She never even broke eye contact with me. Me. Well, you didn't know the difference between a try and a touchdown. Cass Myers. That's not even remotely the same thing. Me. I know. Rugby is so much more important than celebrity gossip. Cass Myers. Eye roll emoji. One of the perils of being in a poly relationship is that your partners have a tendency to gang up on you. Or at least mine do. They seem to revel in coordinating their efforts to poke fun at me. My phone buzzes again, and I glance down at the screen. Cass Myers. Can you record it, please? I want to see you two strutting your stuff. Oh my God, will you stop texting them a play-by-play? I groan, fixing Ellie with a firm look. How are you even able to do that? Just one of my many skills, she says with a sweet smile. So, karaoke? Chapter 3. Declan. And I have words in the song, Baxter cries, almost hitting Finn in the balls as he throws his hands out in excitement over his role in his school's holiday concert this week. Jesus fudge, Finn says, managing to avert the swear at the last moment. He takes a large step back from Baxter, well out of the danger zone. Biting my lip to hold in my laughter, I ask Bax, "What's your line?" With a broad grin across his face, Baxter throws his head back and starts singing at the top of his voice. Don we now our gay apparel. Wow, that was really good, buddy, Brendan says, beaming at his son and reaching down to ruffle his hair. Gay apparel? Heath asks, twisting his head around to offer me a sexy grin. Did you hear that, Deck? You can finally wear the leather chaps I bought you. What do you mean, finally? I've worn them before. Yeah, but not in public, Heath says. My brows shoot up. And you think an elementary school holiday concert is the right place for a public debut? This is a little more than I needed to know, Brendan mutters. What's chaps? Baxter asks, his blue eyes wide with curiosity. Heath chuckles. They're pants that cowboys wear. But Uncle Deck's not a cowboy. Heath nods thoughtfully. You're right. Usually I'm the one riding cowboy. Okay, that's quite enough of that, Brendan cries, holding his arms up as if that will somehow shield Baxter from Heath's not exactly PG statements. Deciding it might be better to just extract us from the situation before Baxter's curiosity gets my husband in further trouble, I grab Heath's hand and start tugging him away. Hey, babe, why don't we get some more eggnog? Oh, sure, lower his inhibitions further. That'll help, Brendan calls after us. Moving the party to my parents' place is a bit of a logistical nightmare. I know Mom meant well by having us all come here to surprise Brendan and Wade when they came home, but honestly, it would have just made more sense to stick to the original plan and have them stop by Mom and Dad's for a bit so everyone could meet the baby. By the time we're all ready to make a move, or in other words, by the time Brendan and Wade are getting sick of us and dropping hints they want to at least try to get some sleep, most of us are already pretty full up on eggnog, Dad's wine, or whatever other alcohol was at hand when the evening started. Fortunately, my parents' place is in the same neighborhood as Brendan and Wade's, so we can easily walk there. Definitely a good thing, considering none of us are in any condition to be driving. It's not until Heath and I are most of the way down the drive that I realize I have a little shadow following me. Frowning down at Baxter, I ask, "Shouldn't you be inside? Your dads will worry if they can't find you." He shakes his head, grinning broadly. I'm staying at Grandma and Pop's tonight because Daddy and BB need space. I chuckle at the way he enunciates the last word. It's clear this is something he's overheard a grown-up, probably my mom, say. Okay, well, come on. You can walk with Heath and me. I quickly crouch down so I can zip up his coat and adjust his hat before standing and taking his small hand in mine. We continue down the drive and are at the sidewalk when I feel Baxter tug at my hand. Wait! I need to say bye to Wyatt! I turn as Baxter tears free of my grip and trots back up the drive to where Liam has just emerged from the house carrying his 5-year-old son in his arms. Wyatt! Baxter calls, waving his arms and bouncing on his tiptoes. Wyatt, who looked as though he'd been dozing against Liam's shoulder, seems to perk up at the sound of Baxter's voice and starts to wriggle out of Liam's hold. Once he's on the ground, he steps toward Baxter, and the two little boys hug. Oh my God, that's so frickin' adorable, Heath says, and I turn to see him holding a hand to his chest as he watches Baxter and Wyatt with a fond smile. Bye, Wyatt. Bye, Baxter. They break apart, and Baxter trots back toward Heath and me while Wyatt takes Liam's hand. You're not coming to Mom and Dad's? I ask him, a little surprised considering how much he and his wife Melinda love a good karaoke night, which is apparently the plan for when we get back to my parents and can turn up the volume. Liam shakes his head. We've got to get this one to bed. Just bring him, Heath suggests. He can fall asleep at Eileen and Michael's and you can carry him home later. Liam lets out a bark of laughter. Spoken like someone without any kids. Trust me, man, once yours gets here, you'll start to see it's not that easy. Besides, Logan and Eden went home a little while ago. We should probably go check they haven't burned the place down. I chuckle. Liam's two older kids are in middle school and are usually given a lot of freedom, but I can see how leaving them home on their own all night might be a bit of a stretch. Once we get back to Mom and Dad's, I hand Baxter over to my mom, who seems beyond relieved to see him arrived safely. Oh, thank goodness, she cries, her hand going to her chest. Mark said he thought he saw him leaving with you, but you know he's got that wonky vision and he's had a few of your father's wines, so I couldn't be sure. I shake my head in wry amusement. I'm not sure my mother, who can barely read a thing without her glasses, is in any position to criticize someone else's vision. My sister Bridie's husband, Mark, sees perfectly fine except for being colorblind. I'm sure there were other people who saw him leave with us, Mom. It's not like we covertly whisked him away in a black van. Well, you can never be too sure, says the woman who forgot Brendan at the mall for 3 hours when he was 9. Actually, that might help explain a few things. I give Mom a reassuring pat on the shoulder and continue through the house into the living room, where I see Shay is already almost done setting up the karaoke machine. We do Christmas karaoke every year, but this year someone's made a rule that the songs have to be performed as a duet. I'm guessing it was to prevent Liam and Brendan from hogging the mic like they usually do, but considering neither are here, it seems a little unnecessary. It does, nevertheless, make for some incredibly entertaining numbers. The best performance of the night is obviously Ben and me doing Jingle Bell Rock. But Heath and Elena's All I Want for Christmas Is You is definitely a crowd pleaser and has everyone up dancing and singing along. Although, to be fair, as drunk as everyone is, they'd probably sing and dance to just about anything right now. And that theory is proven correct when Jamie and Aiden get up to perform a truly horrendous version of Mistletoe by Justin Bieber. As if that song didn't already suck enough. Chapter 4. Blake. When I wake up with my head throbbing and my eyes feeling crusted shut, the last thing I expect to see through my blurry vision once I finally manage to crack them open is a 6-year-old in green reindeer pajamas hovering at the side of my bed. It's Baxter, one of my many nephews. For a long moment, I search my muddled brain, trying to reason out how Bax could be in my house. But then I realize I'm not actually in my house. This is my husband's childhood bedroom. Do you know babies come from sex? Baxter asks. I blink a few times at the question. It sounds a little random, but I guess his world is pretty focused on his new sister and how she got here right now. I did know that. I decide not to clarify that not all children are conceived through intercourse. That seems like a conversation for his fathers to handle. That's where Daddy and Bibi got my sister from, he says. From where? He looks at me like I'm a few cents shy of $1. From sex. It's where all the babies come from. With great effort, I manage to hold in my burst of laughter as I realize he's made the assumption sex is a physical place. Damn, this kid is cute. Oh, right. Of course. Are you and Uncle Owen going to go to sex to get a baby? He asks, curiosity plastered all over his little face. Grandma says you should get a baby soon because you're not getting any younger. I give up. I just can't help letting out a sputtering laugh at that. I feel Owen's arm come around my waist as he snuggles in closer behind me, his nose nuzzling against the back of my neck. What's going on? He asks sleepily. Apparently, your mom thinks I'm old, I tell him wryly. He chuckles against my neck. You are old, Daddy. Baxter's face screws up in confusion. I thought Pop was Uncle Owen's daddy. Obviously registering Baxter's presence, Owen springs up, his eyes wide and cheeks flaming adorably pink. Oh my God, Baxter! Baxter! My mother-in-law Eileen calls from the hallway. Come and leave your uncles alone, love. They're a touch worse for wear this morning. Baxter turns on his heel and patters away into the hallway. What does that mean? He asks Eileen. It means they drank too much eggnog last night. Now come on, love. We'll make some pancakes. Baxter lets out a whoop of excitement and their footsteps disappear down the stairs. Well, that was mortifying, Owen groans, collapsing onto my chest. I let out a soft chuckle and bring up my arms to wrap around him. He's not going to remember it. Owen props his chin on my chest and looks up into my eyes. Are you serious? He still thinks dildo is another word for backpack. That kid doesn't forget anything. Okay, you might have a point there, I admit wryly. He adjusts his position so he's no longer sprawled on my chest, instead stretching out on his side with his head propped against his palm. It's official. I can't call you that anymore. The association's been made. There's no way I'll be able to get that out of my head. But I love when you call me Daddy, I say, unable to stop my lips from forming a pout. Owen offers a teasing grin, his free hand coming up to brush over the stubble on my jaw. Sorry, Blakey Bear. I'll have to think of something else. I groan, just as long as it's not that. Blakey Bear is the ridiculous pet name my mom has for me. Owen took to using it ironically pretty much the second he heard it, but I absolutely do not need to be reminded of my mother during any of our more intimate moments. Why are we in your old room anyway? I ask, glancing around at our surroundings. Not that I don't have extremely fond memories of this place. Owen chuckles softly. You don't remember last night? It's a little fuzzy, I admit. Although I do have Last Christmas on a loop in my head. Yeah, you and Shay did a duet when we got the karaoke machine out. Shay and I did a duet to Wham? I ask incredulously. Owen offers a bright grin. Yep. Didn't need the words or anything. My eyes narrow skeptically. Are you sure it wasn't the boss's version of Santa Claus is Coming to Town? Owen shakes his head back and forth, lips spread into a wide grin. Nope, it was Wham. I groan, shaking my head in mortification. It seems Owen and I aren't the only ones feeling worse for wear this morning. When we finally make our way downstairs, it's to find Declan and Heath, Aiden and Ben, Ellie and Alana all sitting around the kitchen table wearing last night's clothes and seedy expressions. Jesus, did everyone sleep here? I ask. Not everyone, Aiden says, his voice sounding scratchy, most likely from overuse last night. Jake took Shay and Jamie home not long after that beautiful duet of yours. I close my eyes, drawing in a regretful sigh. I still can't believe I sang Wham in public. Finn went with them as well, Heath says. He didn't trust himself under the same roof as Ellie. I'm not sure that's the exact reason, Deck says. We're speculating. Aiden gave a wry shake of his head. No, that's definitely the right reason. I let out a breath of laughter, exchanging an amused glance with Owen. I have no clue what's going on with Finn and Ellie, but it sure sounds interesting. Oh good, you're all up, Eileen says as she bustles into the kitchen. We're about to make some more pancakes. I already had pancakes, Baxter announces brightly, trotting after my mother-in-law. Eileen ruffles his blonde curls affectionately. Yes, well, who knows how long you'd have waited for breakfast if we hadn't gone ahead without this lot. She waves a lazy hand in our direction before turning her attention back to Baxter. Now, my dear, why don't you sit up on this stool and you can be my assistant like you were this morning? Baxter rushes to comply, climbing up onto one of the kitchen stools, his little legs swinging back and forth as he watches Eileen at the stove. "Geez, Mom, how strong was that eggnog?" Alana groans, rubbing a hand over her face. "My head is killing me." "It was the same as it always is. 1/3 alcohol. Clearly your tolerance isn't what it used to be." "I think it's the amount you drunk that was the problem, sis," Declan says with a teasing grin. Alana grumbles a response that I don't quite catch. "Where's Haley?" I ask her, surprised to see her without her wife. "How drunk were you exactly, Blakey Bear?" Heath asks, prompting me to groan in annoyance and roll my eyes. "Haley took Leah home after we all left Brendan's place." "Everyone with kids left early," Aiden says. He offers Heath and Declan a teasing smile, warning, "That'll be you two next." "If the baby ever gets here," Heath mutters. "I can't believe Arya was born first." Declan places a gentle hand on his husband's arm. "Babe, remember what we talked about?" Heath draws in a breath and lets it out slowly. "I can't hold my child's failure to be born first against them for the rest of their life," he recites. Everyone at the table sniggers while Declan leans over to give Heath a kiss on the cheek. Chapter 5. Connor. "Jesus, has the whole city congregated in this mall?" I ask Josh as we join the mile-long line to meet Santa. For the record, we have Chase with us. We're not just two creepy guys lining up with a bunch of kids we don't know. "It's the Sunday before Christmas, Con," he says reasonably. "Of course it's going to be busy." I groan. Fuck, this is going to take forever. I lean out to the side so I can peer around the people in front of me. Way off in the distance, I see Santa seated on a red throne-like chair, while his elves usher just a handful of kids at a time into the little enclosure surrounding him. They should have 2 Santas working, I suggest. Or 3. It'd make the line move quicker. Yeah, I think that'd probably freak the kids out, having more than one Santa. Well, it's not like it's the real Santa, I reason. That comment earns me what I feel to be unjustified glares from a bunch of parents in my vicinity. I roll my eyes at them. What? Everyone knows the real Santa is in the North Pole right now, finalizing all the logistics for his big trip on Thursday. These mall Santas are all just body doubles. "But I want a photo with the real Santa," a little boy in front of us whines, tugging on his mom's hand. I shake my head at him. No one ever gets to meet the real Santa, buddy. He can't leave the North Pole except for on Christmas Eve. Haven't you seen the Christmas Chronicles? Next to me, Josh is shaking with silent laughter, but he manages to recover enough to tug on my arm and pull me down so he can murmur in my ear. As amusing as this is, I think you need to shut it now. These parents look ready to mutiny. Fine, I say with a sigh, but only because it's you asking. The little boy in front of us is full-on crying now, which makes me feel a little bad, but also a little disenchanted. I hope Chase isn't this annoying once he's whatever age this boy is. And speaking of my awesome son, I get a whiff of something incredibly foul coming from the direction of Chase's stroller and know he's finally done that poop we've been waiting for all morning. Oh, God! That's enough to knock someone unconscious, I groan, waving a hand over my face. Josh chuckles. Why don't you go take care of it? I'll smooth things over here. He waves to the area around us and the parents who are still looking pretty peeved. I narrow my eyes at him. Why do I feel like this is a ploy to get me to change what is going to be an absolutely disgusting diaper? Josh holds a hand over his heart, batting his eyes at me in a look of pure innocence. Would I do that? I shake my head in amusement and move toward Chase's stroller. He holds his arms up, signaling he wants to be carried, so I unbuckle the restraints and haul him into my arms before tugging the diaper bag from the stroller's handle and slinging it over one shoulder. As predicted, the diaper is a bad one. I I remember Josh telling me back when I first found out about Chase that his diapers would get worse when he started eating proper foods, but I honestly didn't imagine this. "You're just a little poop machine, aren't you?" I say with a grin as I clean him up and fasten a fresh diaper. "But you're my little poop machine, so you're forgiven." Chase grins, clapping his hands together. "Da da da da." "Yep, that's right." Once I have his pants back on, I sit him up on the change table, pressing a kiss to his forehead before drawing back and smiling at him. "Can you say Santa?" "Sa." Close enough. I haul him back into my arms and return to the bustling mall to meet Josh and the Santa line, which has barely even moved in the 20 minutes I've been gone with Chase. Jesus Christ. When we get to Josh, Chase immediately holds his arms out toward my fiancée. "Jojo! Jojo!" I hand Chase over and start rooting around in the diaper bag for a bib and some snacks. I fasten the bib around Chase's neck and then unwrap a cheese stick, handing it to him. Josh groans. "Cheese? Really? I'm going to end up with this all over my shirt." I shrug. "Would you rather I get out the blueberries?" "Oh, God, no." By the time we reach the front of the queue, Chase has eaten another cheese stick, the blueberries, a couple apple slices, and half a saltine cracker. He's also pooped again, with Josh diving on the bomb this time, and he spent about 20 minutes snoozing in his stroller. Fortunately, despite the ridiculous wait, there haven't been any outbursts or tantrums, which is more than I can say for many of the older kids in the line. But that all changes once we finally get up close to Santa. It's like the second I set Chase on Santa's lap, a switch flicks, and my sweet, happy little boy turns into a screaming little monster. "Oh my God, what's happening?" I ask Josh, my eyes wide with horror. "He was fine 2 seconds ago." The elf working the camera manages to snap a photo of Chase screaming his head off while a frazzled Santa tries to soothe him. Great memories right there. When it becomes abundantly obvious that Chase isn't going to calm down, I step forward and pluck him away from Santa, holding him close. Chase's screams cease, but he's still sobbing and he buries his head in my neck like he does when he's scared. "What the fuck did that asshole do to him?" I growl once we get out of the enclosure. My free hand is clenched into a tight fist as I glare back at Santa, who's now smiling at a giggling little girl sitting on his lap. "Con, I really don't think—" "Look at him! He's terrified!" I gesture to Chase, who still has his head buried in my neck, tears streaming down his face. "He'll be fine," Josh says calmly. "Here." He reaches down into the stroller to retrieve Chase's monkey and hands it to him. Chase immediately clutches it tight to himself, the battered ear going straight into his mouth. "Do you want to wait for the photos?" Josh asks me unenthusiastically. "They're not going to be very good." I narrow my eyes. Oh, I definitely want to see those photos. I want to see if they managed to catch whatever that so-called Santa did to our son. Josh lets out an exasperated groan. "Connor, calm down. He didn't do anything. A lot of kids Chase's age are afraid of Santa. It's completely normal." I stare at Josh, wide-eyed. "What?" He nods. "It's because they're aware enough to know some random stranger with a scary-looking beard is holding them, but not aware enough to know he's not a threat." "I was a random stranger with a scary-looking beard. Are you saying if Chase met me for the first time now, he'd be afraid of me?" Josh offers a gentle smile and reaches up to graze his hand over the scruff on my face, which I've only just recently started growing into a beard again after shaving my last one off because I was sick of getting globs of Chase's food stuck in it. "I'm sure he wouldn't be," he reassures me. "You're his dad. He'd know you anywhere." I smile gratefully at Josh, ducking my head a little to brush a kiss to his cheek. "Thanks." As Josh predicted, the pictures of Chase with Santa are pretty horrible, but we buy them anyway. It's my first Christmas with my son, and I plan to treasure every memory, even the not-so-great ones. You know this wouldn't have happened if Jesse Ramsey were the Santa here, I say in a huff as we start moving away from Santa, threading through the busy mall crowd. Yeah, she's a fictional character, babe. Chapter 6. Heath. The Beebs? Seriously? My sister asks, her face screwed up in disdain as Justin Bieber's Baby starts blaring from my phone. I roll my eyes as I tug it from my back pocket. It's Melissa's ringtone, I tell Lila. You know, the woman who's carrying our baby? Lila just shakes her head. Whatever. There are literally a million other songs you could have used instead. Like Be My Baby, or Baby on Board, or Baby It's You, or Baby Love, or Hey Baby. She continues rattling off song titles, but I tune her out as I answer the call and put the phone against my ear. Hey, Melissa. I can hear the bustle of Manhattan in the background as she talks. Hey, Heath. I'm on 2nd Avenue right now. Am I anywhere close to this place? That depends on where on 2nd Avenue you are. She rattles off some information about her surroundings and the closest street she can see, and I'm relieved to know she's not far away at all. I give her directions and stay on the phone with her until I see her walking through the door of my restaurant. Okay, it's my sister's restaurant, but I'm the manager, so that counts for something. It's quiet in here at the moment because we haven't opened for lunch yet. Lila and I have just been running through our daily routine, checking with the kitchen and the waitstaff that we're all set for a smooth day and evening ahead. There are always little issues that come up throughout the time we're open, but the best thing we can do is be as prepared as possible. I greet Melissa with a smile, my heart thumping as I notice how much bigger she's gotten since the last time we saw her. And I mean that in the nicest possible way. She's carrying our baby, and she looks ready to pop any second. Deck and I are going to be dads really, really soon. This place looks really nice, she says after I've introduced her to my sister and Lila has disappeared somewhere at the back of the restaurant, presumably her office. Melissa glances around at the restaurant and bar, taking it all in. Do you guys really only serve rice? My lips quirk in a smile. It's all there in the name. I point to the logo on my shirt that reads Rice, Rice Baby. It's amazing how many different kinds of rice there are and what can be created with them. My phone chimes with a text, and I check to see it's from Declan. Shit. Dec's stuck in the subway, so he's going to meet us at the hospital. She shrugs, offering a friendly smile. Okay. Should we get going? The hospital where Melissa is having her scan today is only a few minutes' walk from the restaurant, which is why we suggested to meet here. So, have you got much planned for Christmas? I ask as we walk. She shakes her head. We do a big family thing for Hanukkah, so we keep things pretty quiet on Christmas Day. I smile, tugging my jacket tighter around me to block out the icy wind. Sounds like my family. Our Christmas Day pretty much consists of Chinese food and board games. It's actually a near miracle we were able to convince my parents to come here instead of us going to Boston. Mom keeps fretting that we won't have an adequate selection of games. I wouldn't be surprised if that's all she packs in her suitcase, just a bunch of board games and maybe a toothbrush. She doesn't seem to really get that there are department stores in New York where you can buy everything under the sun, including every board game to ever be invented. Melissa chuckles, shaking her head in wry amusement. I think she'd get along with my mom just fine. We enter the hospital and take the elevator to the consulting rooms where Melissa has her appointment. As we're waiting to see the doctor, my phone goes off to the sound of Ed Sheeran's Galway Girl, and I jump to answer Dec's call. Hey, we're just waiting to see the doctor. Are you almost here? Babe, I'm so sorry. I'm still stuck. I don't think I'll be there in time. You'll have to just have the appointment without me. What? You mean I should go in by myself? I lower my voice and whisper into the phone. Is that allowed? What do you mean, is that allowed? Dec asks, amusement in his tone. You're the baby's father. Of course it's allowed. I draw in a deep breath and let it out slowly. Okay, I'll let you know how it goes. Fortunately, it's just a standard checkup that goes without incident. The doctor confirms that the baby has moved into the delivery position, so it could really come any day now, but he also says he's confident we're still a week or two away. That afternoon, once Deck is finally free of the subway, we head out to one of our favorite bars to catch up with Aiden and Ben before they return to Austin. I have to admit, I'm thrilled they're together and so happy, but I was kind of enjoying having them here in New York. It would have been cool if they decided to stay and be happy together here. Oh well, you can't have everything in life. So, you're liking your new place? I ask. They both nod, and then Ben says, "Yeah, but I'm not sure how long we'll stay there." My brows draw together. How come? Aiden shrugs. It's kind of a two-person place. Great for right now, but down the road. Wow, you guys are already talking kids? Deck asks as he takes a swig of his beer. Ben lets out a wry chuckle. Didn't you guys talk about kids before you got engaged? I frown. I don't know. It happened very quickly. We were having sex in the bathroom, and then all of a sudden we were engaged. And then for our first Christmas together, you bought me an online membership to a cryobank. There's a wide, affectionate smile plastered all over Declan's face as he gazes at me in that adoring way that never gets old. Wow, you'd better up your game this year, buddy, Aiden says dryly. I'm not sure how you'll top a present like that. Chapter 7. Owen. The holiday season is always a hectic time in the ED at St. Thomas's. More hectic than usual, I mean, and tonight is no exception. We have brothers who've gotten into a serious fight at a family holiday party, a woman who needs her stomach pumped, a kid who's stuck a candy cane so far up his nose he'll need surgery to remove it safely. Never a dull moment. About halfway through my shift, a little boy is brought in, and there's a mad rush as we see he's in the midst of a seizure so bad his lips are turning blue. How long has he been seizing? Andrea, one of the resident nurses, barks at the woman who brought the little boy in as we rush him to one of the high-acuity beds. I don't know, 15 minutes, maybe? The woman responds. My brow draws tight at what I perceive to be an alarming lack of concern in her tone, but I remind myself everyone handles stressful situations differently and determined to concentrate on the job at hand. I retrieve an infant pulse oximeter and wrap the little adhesive strip around the boy's toe, watching carefully as it indicates the level of oxygen in the blood. Andrea, meanwhile, begins to administer oxygen. I breathe a small sigh of relief as the seizing seems to stop, although I know it's not necessarily over. I've been with patients before who have seized on and off for hours. The fact that the boy is now still does at least give us the opportunity to safely insert an IV line in his little arm. Is he allergic to any medication? I ask. The woman shakes her head. I don't know. I'm just his foster mother. They didn't tell me anything about this. It would be easy to get annoyed hearing her speak in this tone that makes her seem more like someone who's been severely inconvenienced rather than a concerned carer, but I know how stressful medical situations can be for guardians and foster parents, particularly if they don't have much information about the patient's history. As we wait for a doctor to come examine the boy, Andrea and I go through his history with the foster mother. What's his name? I ask. Ryder Bellamy. And how old? 3. Has he been unwell in the past few days? Feverish at all? Any unusual rashes? Andrea asks. The woman shakes her head. No, he's been fine. Any history of seizures? I ask. Well, she hesitates for a moment, her lips pursed together. He had one last week. It was over really quickly, though, and then he was just back to normal. Maybe a little sleepy afterward, but it wasn't like this. She gestures to the little boy on the bed who's still unconscious. When it started tonight, I assumed it would just be like that one, but then it just didn't stop. And you don't know how long it went for? I ask. I'm trying to keep my tone even and non-judgmental, but going by the warning look from Andrea, I don't think I'm successful. I'm just finding it incredibly worrying that Ryder's carer didn't seek medical attention after the first seizure. The woman waves her hand. I don't know. We're about a 5-minute walk from the hospital, and it had probably been about 10 minutes by the time I thought I should bring him in and getting my neighbor to watch the other kids and everything. Has he ever been tested for any brain conditions, like epilepsy? I ask. How would I know? He's only been with us 6 weeks. I'm relieved when I see his eyes flutter open, and I offer a bright smile and give his little hand a squeeze. Hey, Ryder. He doesn't respond, instead glancing around in understandable confusion. Okay, have you got this, Owen? Andrea asks. I nod. Yeah, no problem. I know it's way too busy for her to stay here with me when there's really not much else she can do. One of the doctors will be here soon to give him a thorough examination. So is he okay? The foster mother asks. Can we go now? One of the doctors will need to see him before you can go anywhere, ma'am, I tell her, doing my best to keep my tone even. He's been through a very serious trauma. Is there anything else you know about Ryder's history from before he came to you? Any abuse, fetal alcohol syndrome? If there was, no one's told me about it, she says, sounding peeved. Fortunately, the resident on duty tonight, Dr. Miles, stops by the cubicle before I have a chance to say something completely unprofessional to this woman. As much sympathy as I have for her, because she's clearly not been given the right support to deal with this kind of situation, her attitude is severely testing my patience. I give Dr. Miles a rundown of the situation and what limited information we have regarding Ryder's history. He gives a brief nod of approval and then proceeds with an examination, checking all of Ryder's responses, his heart and lungs, and his vitals, which seems to be doing much better now. Okay. Considering there's been no sign of fever, no rash, no other symptoms, I doubt this is a result of an infection. But we'll take blood just to be certain, he says, still glancing Ryder up and down. I think more likely it's an undiagnosed seizure disorder, but it obviously needs further investigation. He turns to the foster mother, offering a kind smile. We'll admit him to pediatric neurology so they can run some tests. I imagine they'll want to keep him overnight, possibly a few days. Are you kidding? She demands, looking aghast. I can't stay here with him for a few days. I have other kids at home. Dr. Miles looks taken aback for a moment, but recovers quickly. You won't need to stay the whole time if you're not able to. The pediatrics team will be able to talk to you about appropriate visiting hours. Looking a little more appeased, she nods. Okay, Owen, can you do the blood draw while I get him admitted? He asks me. I nod and let go of Ryder's hand so I can retrieve the necessary supplies for drawing blood. I seriously hate doing this on kids this young, especially a patient like Ryder, who's still completely disorientated and likely distressed. But it needs to be done. Okay, buddy. My name's Owen. I'm a nurse here. Hi, Owen, he says in a tiny voice. I smile. How are you feeling? Do you think you can sit up for me? He nods, and I help him to sit upright, adjusting the back of the bed so it supports him in that position. As I prepare everything for the blood draw, I do my best to distract him. I see you have Spider-Man on your PJs. Is he your favorite Avenger? Ryder nods. Why do you like him so much? Because he's red. Ah, you like red, huh? Like fire trucks and Elmo? He nods again. I like Elmo. Okay, buddy, this is going to sting for a second. Can you be brave like Spider-Man? Ryder nods, and I insert the needle. It doesn't take long for me to get what I need, and in a matter of moments, I'm withdrawing the needle and covering the injection site with a padded Band-Aid. I feel like I'm on edge for the rest of my shift, and when I finally get home, all I want to do is crawl into bed with Blake and curl up in his arms. But what's waiting for me when I walk in the door is even better. I can smell garlic and cheese and other wonderful scents coming from the kitchen, and I know my amazing husband has not only waited up for me, but has made me my favorite meal, his broccoli pasta. Considering I usually hate broccoli, this pasta is like magic. When I walk into the kitchen, Blake immediately turns away from the stove and wraps his arms around me from behind. "You smell more hospital-y than normal," he murmurs, nuzzling at my neck. I let out a soft chuckle. A kid peed on me right before I was about to punch out, so I had to shower and change scrubs, I explain. "I should really leave some clothes in my locker." "No, the scrubs are sexy," he says into my ear. "Without the getting peed on thing, obviously." I chuckle and step away from him, just far enough that I can turn and reach up on my tiptoes to brush my lips across his. Blake wraps his arms tight around me and kisses me deeper, delving his tongue past my lips and twining it with mine in that demanding yet tender way that I can't imagine ever getting tired of. I let out a little whimper as we break apart, but it's only so Blake can switch the stove off before prowling back toward me, his eyes full of heat and desire. He reaches for me, tugging my scrub shirt over my head in one swift movement before slamming his lips back against mine. Blake's hands slide down my back, finding their way into my pants and palming my ass. I groan against his lips, moving even closer against him to the point I'm practically humping his thigh. "Fuck, Blake. Don't tease me," I whimper. He offers a sexy grin before pulling away from me. "Up," he demands, slapping the counter. I don't hesitate to comply, quickly jumping up onto the counter and holding my legs up so Blake can tug off my sneakers and remove my pants. Once I'm completely naked, he retrieves a bottle of lube from where we keep it in the drawer under the counter and makes quick work of slicking up my hole in his dick before pushing it inside me, hard and deep, exactly how I like it. I let out a harsh groan as he fills me, my legs coming up to wrap around his waist. It's reminiscent of the first time Blake made me dinner after work, our first date. It feels like such a long time ago now, and so much has changed. I'm no longer closeted, and Blake is no longer just my brother's best friend or a guy I connected with through a computer game. He's my husband, the love of my life. The man I plan to grow old with, start a family with. I'd like to say I no longer get anxiety or care what strangers think about us, but that's not entirely true. What I can say is I no longer let any of my hang-ups dictate my life. "Jesus Christ, oh," Blake groans. "Harder, Daddy," I cry, my hands clinging tight to his hair. "Fuck, make it hurt." His response to that is to grab my legs and toss them over his shoulders, pushing in even deeper as he bends me practically in half, pinning me down with his large body and thrusting his hips in a fierce, brutal rhythm. "Fuck, Owen. Shit." I feel Blake's body tensing up and he crushes his lips against mine just as hot cum spills into my ass. He stays there for a moment, his mouth devouring mine as I hold him against me. But then he gently removes my legs from his shoulders and pulls out of me. Standing up, Blake gathers me against him so I'm seated on the edge of the counter, my arms and legs wrapped around him. He crashes his lips against mine again, his hand coming down between us to stroke my aching cock. I can't stop myself from snapping my hips, thrusting into his hand as my grip tightens in his hair. "Fuck," I groan. "Blake, I'm not able to finish the thought as the orgasm rips through me and I come all over Blake's hand. Breathless, I drop my head to Blake's shoulder, and he lifts his arms to wrap around me, heedless of the mess he's making on my back. Like I care. "I thought you weren't calling me Daddy anymore," he asks wryly. I let out a soft breath of laughter. Habit. He draws back from me a little, his beautiful blue eyes boring into me with a look of concern. "Is everything okay? That was intense." I sigh. He's right. I love being taken hard and rough, but it's not something I need anymore the way I used to. It's taken me a long time to understand it, but I used to use sex as a way to deal with my anxiety. It's been a while since that kind of compulsive need to be owned and used has reared its head. I shake my head. It's stupid. It's just... This kid came into the ED tonight, and I don't know. I'm just worried for him. I tell Blake all about Ryder and the foster mother and how Dr. Miles, while not prepared to make an official diagnosis, was pretty sure the boy is epileptic. "I know it's dumb," I say, shaking my head. "I deal with literally hundreds of people a week, so I have no idea why this kid is sticking with me. It's just, he's so young. And I hate that he's not going to have the proper support for what will probably be a pretty difficult road." "Don't ever say that," Blake reprimands. "It's not dumb. You care about people. That's what makes you such an amazing nurse." I offer a weak smile, and he dips his head to brush a kiss across my lips. "Maybe you should go in to see him tomorrow," Blake suggests. "It doesn't sound like he'll be getting many visitors from home." I nod, a little buoyed by the suggestion. "Yeah, I think I will." Chapter 8. Wade. I feel like I've barely even shut my eyes after setting out the kids' presents from Santa when I wake to the sensation of strong arms being wrapped around me and bristly stubble scraping against the side of my neck as my boyfriend nuzzles against me. "Are they asleep?" I murmur. Brendan stiffens for a moment before saying quietly, "Yeah, like you're supposed to be. Sorry, I didn't mean to wake you." "It's okay." I nestle back against Brendan's strong body, savoring the perfect feel of him. "How's Arya's diaper rash?" "It's getting better, I think. That cream my mom gave us seems to be working." "That's good. And you should really try going back to sleep," he murmurs, cutting me off. "Otherwise, I might start getting ideas." I let out a soft chuckle. I like it when you get ideas. I feel a soft kiss against my neck, and then Brendan starts moving his hand farther south, edging it slowly toward the waistband of my pajama pants and my rapidly hardening cock. Oh yeah, I like this idea. But before Brendan can so much as graze my cock, we're interrupted by our bedroom door slamming open and the whirlwind that is our 6-year-old son. We tear apart immediately, Brendan rolling away from me just as Baxter vaults onto the bed. "Ah, Jesus fluffing Christ, ow!" I reach out to turn on my bedside lamp, adding its light to the faint stream coming in from the hallway. In the new brightness, I can see Brendan curled up in the fetal position, his face twisted with pain, while Baxter kneels on the bed right beside him. "You okay, B?" I ask. "We weren't ever planning to do IVF, were we?" he asks in a grumbled voice. "'Cause I've just been taken off the roster." "I'm sorry, baby," Baxter says, and I can see the concern on his face as he looks at Brendan. "I didn't mean to hurt you." "Baxter, what are you doing in here?" I say sternly. "It's way too early for you to be awake, you know that." "I wanted to see Santa, but he's already been," he cries, his face crumpled with disappointment. "Well, of course he's already been," Brendan reasons. "He only comes while kids are asleep." "Baxter, I began in the same firm tone. Have you already been out into the living room? Bax seems to realize he's backed himself into a corner with his previous comment and keeps his mouth shut, but the guilt is written all over his face. Right, that's it, I say, my eyes narrowed on my son. You broke the rules, so you're definitely not allowed to see your presents now. But, Daddy, Baxter sobs, almost in tears. Calm down, I tell him. You can see them later, once Arya wakes up. And you'll have to be on your best behavior until then, Brendan says. Otherwise, Santa might come back and take your presents away. Baxter's eyes widen in horror. Could Santa really do that? Do you want to risk it? Brendan asks him, brows raised. Come on, bud, I say gently. You can stay in here for now, and once Arya's awake, we'll go look at the presents. Baxter nods and crawls under the covers, in between me and Brendan. I flick the lamp back off and settle back against my pillow, praying to the baby gods that my daughter will sleep for at least about 6 hours. Newborns can do that, right? Of course, we hear Arya screeching through the monitor about an hour and a half later, during which time neither Brendan or I have been able to get a wink of sleep thanks to Baxter kicking at us. What do you think the chances are of getting her fed and changed and back to sleep before he wakes up again? Brendan asks quietly. I offer a wry smile. Only one way to find out. I carefully slide out of bed so as not to disturb my sleeping son and pad quietly out of the bedroom and across the hall to the nursery. I make sure to turn the sensor off on the monitor before reaching down to pull my fussing 8-day-old daughter from her bassinet. Hey, princess, I coo in a soft whisper as I draw her up against my shoulder and start bouncing around a little. You're hungry again already, huh? The movement quiets her pretty quickly. Like her fictional namesake, Arya seems to be a bit of a thrill seeker, always at her happiest when she's being swooped or bounced in someone's arms or sitting in her motorized swing. But even though the crying has stopped, she's still a little unsettled, and I can tell she's eager for some food. As an early Christmas gift, my sister Amy bought us an awesome machine that makes up formula, basically like a Keurig for baby bottles. We decided to keep it in the nursery because, let's face it, overnight feedings are when we need the most help. So now all I need to do is press a button, and a few seconds later I have a fresh, warm bottle for my little girl. Once she's fed and changed, I attempt to put Arya back to sleep in her bassinet, but she doesn't want to settle this time around, and I know the chances of me getting any further sleep this morning is now practically zero. I carry my daughter across the hall, prepared to tell Baxter it's okay for him to open his presents now, but find both him and Brendan sound asleep. Deciding to let them sleep, we'll all be better off for Baxter getting as much shut-eye as possible, I take Arya down to the kitchen and strap her into her carrier so she can snuggle against me while I prepare stuff for breakfast. Despite her unwillingness to settle in her own bed, it only takes about 5 minutes for her to fall asleep in the carrier. I shake my head wryly as I look down at her sleeping peacefully. Figures. With everything that's been going on lately, our pantry and refrigerator are not quite as stocked as they usually might be, which is why we ended up leaving a celery stick for the reindeer last night instead of the usual carrot. So getting together some items for a nice breakfast is a bit of a challenge. I managed to find some frozen hash browns in the freezer, so I preheat the oven and stick them in. I figure if I pair them with some cut-up fruit and natural yogurt, it'll all be balanced out. I'm just cutting up some apple slices when I hear pounding footsteps down the hallway. "Oh my God!" Baxter shrieks, skidding into the living room. "Rudolph ate the celery!" I grin at his reaction. Clearly, when he came out earlier to check on the status of the presents, he forgot to check whether the snacks we left out last night had been eaten. "How do you know it was Rudolph?" Brendan asks, rubbing a hand over his sleep-messed dark hair as he follows after Baxter. "It could have been Dasher, or Prancer. Actually, I think I read somewhere that Comet is a big fan of celery." Baxter's eyes blow wide as saucers. Really? Brendan nods sagely. Absolutely. It helps with his digestion. I let out a soft chuckle as I watched the pair of them. Despite several of Brendan's tall tales being thoroughly debunked, Baxter still hangs on his every word like it's gospel. Why don't you go have a look at your presents? I suggest, nodding toward a pile of gifts wrapped in dark blue reindeer print paper. Baxter jumps at the suggestion, immediately rushing over to see his presents. But as he catches sight of another pile of gifts, a confused frown forms on his face. What are those? He asks, pointing at the collection of gifts wrapped in a pink snowflake print. Those must be Arya's presents, Brendan says brightly. He steps toward me and reaches out a finger to gently stroke over Arya's cheek. Did you see that, Ari? He coos. Santa left you presents. This seems to confuse Baxter even more. But Arya's just a baby. Santa left you presents when you were a baby, I reason. Baxter's brows draw together. I don't remember that. That's because you were a baby, Brendan tells him. Babies don't remember things. Why don't you open your presents, bud? I prompt. And then you can help Arya open hers. With a kind of feverish delight, Baxter rips into present after present, becoming more and more excited as each new gift reveals itself. A slime-making kit, Avengers Legos, a balance board, several new books. There are also some more boring items, like some new winter clothes and some things he'll be needing for school next year. Can I help Arya open her presents now? Baxter asks eagerly once he's carefully examined every item in his haul. I smile affectionately. Sure, bud. Of course, Baxter's help basically consists of grabbing the closest pink-wrapped box and tearing the paper off with the same zeal he had for his own presents. Once the paper is off, Baxter stares at the box with clear disappointment. What is this? It's a baby bath. I guess Santa knows Arya will be taking proper baths soon. Baxter's face lights up. And I get to be the assistant. I chuckle, reaching down to ruffle his blonde curls. That's right, buddy. Bax was weirdly disappointed when we brought Arya home, and he found out she could only have boring sponge baths until her cord comes off. I guess for a kid who loves nothing more than playing in the bath, he was disappointed not to be able to share that with his new sister. Let's see what else Santa left for Arya, Brendan says to Baxter, handing him another package. Can you help her open this one? I'm not really helping her, Bax clarifies with an air of superiority. I'm doing it for her because she's too little. You're helping her by doing it for her, I say. The rest of Arya's presents follow a similar pattern. That is, items we bought in the lead up to her birth but haven't had a chance to use yet because she's only a week old. Baxter displays varying amounts of enthusiasm as he unwraps each package. A baby gym, a pack and play, some more baby clothes, a rabbit lovey. Is that all? Baxter demands once he's opened all of Arya's gifts. What do you mean, is that all? I say sternly. Santa's been very generous this year. You're both very lucky. Baxter looks down, chastened. But I like opening presents. I let out a breath of laughter, shaking my head affectionately. Well, if that's all it is, maybe BB will let you help him open his present from me. Baxter's eyes light up. Can I? Brendan grins. Sure. Then to me, he mutters under his breath, but we might not want to do it the other way around, not unless you want him finding out what a dildo actually is. Chapter 9. Josh. What are you doing? What's going on? I ask sleepily as I stare bleary-eyed at Connor, who's out of bed and already tugging on a sweatshirt. Why are you up? Today's a holiday. He rubs his hands together, a beaming smile spreading across his bearded face. Yup, it's Christmas. I'm going to get Chase up so he can see what Santa left him. My eyes snap wide open at that. Connor, are you insane? It's not even light out yet. It's 6 a.m., he says brightly. Plenty late enough. I sigh. Babe, just come here. I pat the space next to me on the bed. Please? Reluctantly, he joins me on the bed, although he's still kneeling, as though he's poised to get up at any second. I sit up and wrap my hands around his face, looking deep into his beautiful eyes. Con, I know this is your first Christmas with Chase, and you should be excited. It's great that you are, but I need you to think ahead for a minute. We've got a big day with Laura's family and then Kate's place for dinner tonight. Do you really want to start the day by waking Chase before he's ready? And besides, Laura didn't get in until after midnight last night. We should let her sleep some more. With a defeated sigh, he slumps on the bed next to me. I guess you're right. I know I am. I offer a soft smile, lifting my hand to run through his golden hair. It's grown out a lot over the past year and is worn up in a bun most days, but I love when it's down like this and I can thread my fingers through it. That feels good. He lets his eyes fall closed, and I drop my head to brush a kiss over his jaw, earning another hum of appreciation. I was going to suggest we try to get some more sleep, I murmur, but I can't think of a better way to pass the time. I barely have the words out before Connor rolls on top of me, his lips crashing down against mine. The second we connect, there's that familiar torrent of need and desire that seeps through to my bones and has me instantly desperate for him. I run my hands over his body, hastily removing his sweatshirt and the t-shirt underneath before letting my fingers roam all over the hard planes of his back, his broad shoulders, down his tattooed chest. I wrap my legs around his waist and roll us over, loving the murmurs of appreciation he lets out as I kiss my way down his muscular chest, paying attention to all the beautiful ink there. And when I slide my tongue around the ring in his right nipple, there's a deep rumbling groan that goes straight to my cock. Fuck yeah, he growls as I tug the ring gently with my teeth. He takes a second to scramble out of his sweats, and then I feel his hands on my ass, spurring me to move up and thrust against his cock. The new alignment means I have to draw my mouth away from his nipple. I'm smaller than Connor, but not that much smaller, but the incredible way our cocks feel moving against each other makes the sacrifice worth it. Instead, I move my hand up to play with the nipple ring and crash my mouth back against Connor's. It reminds me a little of the morning after our very first kiss, when we started grinding together before we learned who each other was and freaked out. Or, at least, I freaked out. That all seems so distant to me now. It's impossible to think there was a time when I was fighting this relationship between us. A time before we knew about Chase, when Connor was just my ex's sexy brother who was determined to woo me. But all that was only a year ago. Now we're dads. We're engaged. We've got this awesome little blended family with Chase's mom. And best of all, I get to wake up every morning in the arms of the man I love more than I ever thought possible. Grabbing me tight by the hips, Connor flips us again so I'm on my back and he's on top of me. I groan against his lips as he thrusts down, dragging the pierced head of his cock along my shaft. Fuck yeah. Give me that cock, babe. I want a taste. The corner of Connor's mouth twitches in response to that, and he doesn't waste time shuffling up my body and tilting my head forward so he can feed me his cock. I take him eagerly, my tongue swirling over the head and paying special attention to his piercing before licking up the rest of his shaft as I take him farther down my throat. I stare up into Connor's gorgeous eyes and watch his lips form murmured words of praise as he gently fucks my throat. The muscles of his broad, powerful body ripple as he thrusts in and out, one arm stretched out to grip the headboard as he looms over me. And I just love the way his hair looks right now, falling in golden waves to his shoulders. He's like a tattooed, pierced, bearded Adonis. I reach for my own cock, stroking frantically along the hard, throbbing shaft as I continue to suck and swallow Connor. Jesus, baby, I can't, Connor stutters out. I know what he's asking me, and I lock gazes with him, my eyes communicating all the permission he needs to let loose and fuck my throat. He grabs the back of my hair, tilting my head up and keeping me in place as he thrusts in and out of my mouth in hard, punishing strokes that make my eyes water. But I love it. My hand moves rapidly over my own cock as I feel the orgasm building inside me like an inferno ready to ignite any second. Connor's grip tightens in my hair, his body tensing up as he comes hard down my throat, practically choking me. A second later, my climax rushes through me and I arch off the bed as hot cum covers my hand. Connor pulls out of my mouth and collapses half next to me, half on top of me. I'm honestly incredibly proud of myself for not accidentally biting down as I was coming, but it's not as though I don't have practice with this kind of play. You okay, baby? Connor asks, looking a little concerned as I sputter and cough a little. I manage to swallow most of his cum down the right pipe, but it seems a little went into my airway. I'll be fine, I manage to croak. He chuckles and presses a kiss to my jaw. Then he glances down my body and gives a disappointed shake of his head. Damn, you didn't leave anything for me. He eyes me mournfully, his lips forming an adorable pout. You know I hate it when you get yourself off. That's supposed to be my job. I smile affectionately at him. I couldn't help it. He brushes another soft kiss over my lips before moving away and sliding off the bed. I'll just have to make up for it later, he says with a wink. Where are you going? I ask as he starts putting his pants back on. We've whiled away a bit of time, but it's still early. To get you some water. You sound like you could replace Steven Tyler on an Aerosmith Greatest Hits tour. I decide I may as well get up too. Otherwise, who knows if Connor will have another attack of the crazy and decide to sneak upstairs and wake the baby while he's supposed to be in the kitchen. I slide off the bed and pad into the ensuite, quickly cleaning up the mess I made on my hand and stomach. Then I return to the bedroom and pull on a pair of Connor's sweats. They're way too big for me, but I love wearing his clothes, and he seems to love seeing me in them. When I get into the kitchen, I see a glass of water waiting for me on the counter while Connor rummages through the fridge, presumably in search of ingredients for breakfast. I down the whole glass of water, feeling a little relief in my throat. You know, you can go back. The fridge isn't going anywhere, I say as Connor emerges from the fridge, his arms full of various food items. He sets the items on the counter. I see mushrooms, a red bell pepper, bacon, cheese, and onion. I am going back, he says with a grin, and reaches into the fridge again. This time, he retrieves a carton of eggs and a quart of milk. He kicks the refrigerator door closed with his foot and sets the remaining ingredients on the counter. So, what's on the menu? Veggie omelets and a side of bacon. Can I have bacon in my omelet as well? He smiles at me. You can have anything you want, babe. Morning. I glance up as Laura enters the kitchen. Morning. She arches an eyebrow at my still raspy voice, but then just shakes her head. I'm not going to ask. Probably a good idea, Connor says, offering me a sexy smirk as he reaches under the counter to retrieve a cutting board. What are you doing up already? I ask Laura. You need more sleep. Yeah, but I woke up and was too excited to go back to sleep, she says, her whole face lit with anticipation. Chase is way more aware this year than last year. I want to see his reaction when he opens his presents. I groan. Oh, God. Don't tell me you want to wake him early, too. Her brows shoot up. Hell no. I want breakfast first. Hopefully he'll sleep for another hour at least. I offer Connor a pointed look, and he just shakes his head and continues slicing vegetables. Fortunately, we all manage to get through breakfast before Chase wakes and starts screaming to be let out of his crib. As soon as we hear him, Connor jumps out of his chair and bounds up the stairs to Chase's room. When they come back down, Connor looks like he can barely contain his excitement, while Chase looks adorably bleary-eyed and still totally out of it after just waking up. You could have at least taken him out of his sleep sack, Laura mutters with an eye roll before wandering over to Connor and Chase so she can unzip and remove said sleep sack, leaving Chase in his onesie pajamas. Ignoring Laura, Connor holds Chase on his hip, cooing at him as he points out the pile of presents near the Christmas tree. Look, buddy. Look what Santa left you. Sa! Chase cries, clapping his hands. Yeah, that's right, Connor says, grinning at his son. See, Santa's not a scary guy. He brings presents. Connor sets Chase on the ground in front of his presents, and we all spend the next 10 minutes helping him unwrap them. By which I mean Laura, Connor, and I unwrap the presents, while Chase seems more fascinated with the wrapping paper than any of his new toys. Probably not surprisingly, Connor's favorite of Chase's new toys is a little plastic guitar that plays Beatles music. Or at least it's supposed to. It seems the batteries Santa left aren't the right ones for this toy. As Connor messes around with it on the coffee table, trying to figure out how it works, I watch in amusement as Chase comes up to the other side of the table and pulls himself up, his eyes glued with fascination to everything Connor is doing. That kid could not possibly be more obsessed with his dad. It makes my heart glow just thinking about it. Shit. These definitely aren't the right ones, Connor mutters. I'll see if we got any in the kitchen. He rises from the sofa and strides toward the kitchen. I watch his retreating ass for a brief moment before returning my gaze to Chase and let out a gasp of surprise when I see him standing up on his own without holding on to anything. Oh my God, I cry, slapping my hands over my mouth in excitement. What? Laura demands before letting out a little squeal as she no doubt sets eyes on her son. Connor, get in here, I call. What? What is it? He asks, rushing back into the room. As soon as he sees Connor, Chase puts one foot forward, his arms outstretched toward his dad. Oh my God, he's walking, Connor exclaims. Yeah, not exactly. That one tiny non-step is pretty much all Chase can manage right now, and he topples over onto his backside, his arms still held out toward Connor. I don't think that really counts as walking, Laura says, her nose scrunched up in amusement. It was a step, Connor declares, reaching down to scoop Chase into his arms. We all saw it. I let out a soft chuckle. I don't know, babe. I'm not sure anyone will believe it until we have video evidence of it happening. All our families have been waiting a long time for Chase to start walking. They'll want to make sure it's legit. You have an annoyingly good point, Connor grumbles. Chapter 10. Jamie. Where are you going? I pause at the sound of Shay's rumbling voice, my hand hovering midair before the handle of our bedroom door. I glance back at my boyfriend, offering an affectionate smile. You were sleeping, so I thought I'd make us a nice Christmas breakfast. Shay arches a skeptical brow. You were going to make breakfast? A special Christmas breakfast. I spin around to face Shay and come clean. All right, it was just going to be toast. But I was going to serve it on those elf plates I bought the other week to make it more festive. Shay grins. That's sweet, but I don't want toast right now, Red. Now, take those pants off and get over here so I can have a proper Christmas feast. I snort with laughter at that, but nonetheless cross the floor over to the bed and shimmy out of my pajama bottoms before climbing back in and joining Shay under the covers. My phone chimes with a text, and I consider reaching for it, but Shay rolls on top of me, pinning me down. "Ignore it," he murmurs, trailing kisses along my neck. I figure it's probably just my mum sending her Christmas wishes. We'll be chatting with her over Zoom later this morning, so it's not hard to follow Shay's suggestion, especially when he started working his way down my chest, his tongue circling one of my nipples. I let out a groan of pleasure, which only gets louder as he reaches down and wraps his big hand around my hard cock. And then my phone chimes again. And then again. With a grunt of annoyance, Shay moves away from me and motions toward the bedside table where my phone is currently charging. "You might as well check it. Could be important." "Or I could just switch it off," I say with a grin. Shay's eyes flare with desire. "Oh yeah, I like that plan." I reach for my phone and am about to switch it off when I see the texts on the preview screen. They're all from Will. "Hang on a sec. They're from Will." "Shouldn't he be getting his own Christmas morning blowjob right now?" Shay drawls. "Or is Spencer Cox not into that?" I let out a snort of laughter. Based on what I've read and what Will's told me, I think Spencer Cox is into a lot of stuff. Maybe a blowjob is too vanilla. "I really don't want to be talking about Spencer Cox's sex life," Shay grumbles. I roll my eyes. "Babe, you're the one who brought it up." Finally, checking my phone, I let out a little squeak of excitement as I read the texts. Will Crawford. "Spence proposed last night." Will Crawford. "And I said yes." Will Crawford. "I'm engaged." Will Crawford. Photo. "What? What is it?" Shay asks, clearly curious as to what has me so excited. "Will's engaged. Oh, wow. The ring's gorgeous." "You've got to be fucking kidding me," Shay groans before sliding out of bed. I stare at him, wide-eyed, as he grabs a pair of jogging bottoms from the chest of drawers by the opposite wall and tugs them on. "What are you doing? What happened to my blowjob?" "You know what Spencer Cox is," Shay asks, ignoring my question. His eyes are narrowed and his body seems to be drawn tight with agitation. "He's a ruiner." My face screws up in confusion. "What?" "That's right. He ruins things." "Shay, you sound like a complete wanker. What the bloody hell's going on?" Deflating somewhat, he lets out a heavy sigh, lifting a hand to scrub through his dark hair. "Fuck, I'm sorry. I just... What?" I press, although I'm not entirely sure I want to know the answer. Is he worried that now my best mate's engaged, I'm going to start pressuring him for us to get married as well? I'm not going to lie, hearing that Will and Spencer are taking this step after only a few months together is a bit of a gut punch when Shay and I have been together for over a year and have been living together since May. I'm not desperate to get married. Shay's the love of my life, and I don't need a ring to prove that. But that doesn't mean I wouldn't like one, or that I wouldn't at least like to know one's coming at some stage. Shay's gaze meets mine, his eyes full of apprehension. "I just wanted today to be perfect. I wanted it to be all about you. No one else." I'm still completely baffled, but I decide to brush it off. With a teasing grin, I say, "Well, if you want that, you could start by coming back up here and giving me that blowjob." The corner of his mouth quirks up. "Why don't you just step out into the living room?" What? So that's a firm no on the blowjob? With a shrug, I crawl off the bed and shove my legs back into my special Christmas pajama bottoms, the dark purple ones with the little Rudolphs all over them. Then I stride across the bedroom toward the door that opens onto the living room, sensing Shay trailing behind me. "What the—" My words trail off as I start to step slowly into the living area, my mouth gaping like a bloody goldfish as I just stare at the sight in front of me. It looks like a giant fairy has come and shat all over the place, leaving pink and purple sparkly stuff everywhere. There are at least a dozen arrangements of flowers of all shades of pink and purple, from dusty rose through to deep violet. Helium balloons in the same colors cling to the ceiling, with long ribbons trailing down like purple rain. And on the floor, so much glitter. All the glitter. Everywhere. I want to just lie down in it and make a glitter angel. I spin around to ask Shay if he knows who opened our apartment up for a unicorn orgy last night, and see him in the doorway of our bedroom, his shoulder resting against the door jamb, his feet crossed casually at the ankles. There's a gentle smile on his lips, and in his hand is an open ring box. I think this sight stuns me even more than all the glitter, but when I look into his eyes, I can see just how genuine he is. There's so much love and affection there, but also a little apprehension, as though he's not quite sure what I'm going to say. The idiot. As if my answer could be anything but yes. Are you going to just stand there like a twat, or are you going to ask me? I nod pointedly at the box in his hand. He lets out a bark of laughter that lights up his whole face. Pushing away from the door, he steps toward me and takes my hand in his. Looking deep in my eyes, he says, James Edward Parrish. Ugh, seriously? You have to use the full name? Absolutely, he says with an affectionate smile. James Edward Parrish. Will you marry me? That's it? Nothing about how I complete you as a person, how your life would be empty without me, how you didn't know what true love was until we met? He cuts me off by lifting his hand to grip me by the chin. Just say yes, Red. I grin at him. Of course it's yes, you idiot. He slides the ring on my finger and then wraps his arms around me, swooping down to seal his lips against mine. I link my hands around his neck, pulling him closer and deepening the kiss. When we finally break away, both of us are grinning like idiots. So this is what that tantrum was about? I ask, one eyebrow arched. He sighs. I just didn't want Will stealing your thunder. Today's your day. I chuckle. It's Christmas, babe. Today's everyone's day. Besides, I don't care one bit about bloody thunder, I say firmly, lifting my hands in air quotes. I just care about us. Shay kisses me again, and for a long moment we just get completely lost in each other. I slide my hands all over his muscled chest, running along the ink that I love so much, before sliding down farther and eventually delving into the back of his joggers. Please tell me Jake's not here, so we can shag in the glitter, I murmur against his lips as my finger starts to tease his crease. You know that's always been a dream of mine. He left for Baltimore early this morning, Shay says, giving my own ass a squeeze over my pajamas. I let out a soft sigh of anticipation. As much as I hate the idea of Jake having to get through Christmas Day with his asshole stepdad, it does make the current situation a lot more convenient. Perfect. Lose the trousers and grab some lube, I tell him. You are so fucking me in this glitter. I'm starting to think you only said yes because of the glitter, he says with a soft chuckle. It was about 90-10 if I'm being honest, I admit. 90% was the glitter, 10% because I actually love you and want to be with you forever. His face splits into a broad grin. Hell, I'll take what I can get. He brushes a soft kiss over my cheek and moves away to get the lube. After spending a moment watching Shay's arse as he walks toward the bedroom, I finally glance down at the ring he put on my finger. I've been so preoccupied with saying yes and snogging my new fiancée, I haven't had a chance to actually look at it yet, and once I set eyes on it, I can't help letting out a little squeal of delight. It's purple. It's a thick band made out of some kind of metal that's been brushed violet on the outer surface, and in the center of the ring, wrapping all the way around, is an inlay of little purple stones. It's so bloody perfect I want to cry. Why aren't you undressed yet? I glance up to see Shays emerge from the bedroom completely starkers, lube bottle in hand. I let out a low growl of appreciation as my eyes roam over his gorgeous body, as beautiful today as the night he first brought me home to his apartment, back when we were perfect strangers who never thought we'd see each other again. So bloody glad we were wrong about that. I hold up my hand to show him the ring. Shay, it's perfect. His mouth forms into that sexy, crooked smile I love so much. Better than Will's? So much better than Will's, I exclaim. His is so boring and not purple. With a soft chuckle, he prowls toward me, wrapping his arms around my waist and leaning down for a soft kiss. I love you. I love that you proposed with glitter and a purple ring, I say, grinning against his lips. And I love that you said yes. You're a right idiot if you thought I'd say anything else. Chapter 11. Shay. Okay, I'll admit, I was a total ass earlier when I heard about Will's engagement. I've just spent so long planning this proposal, I wanted everything to be absolutely perfect. Of course, as it happens, the only thing I really needed to achieve that goal was for Jamie to say yes. With my arms wrapped around him and our lips sealed together, I pulled him down with me onto the glitter and confetti-covered floor. I knew Jamie would want to have sex in the glitter. It's why I've done it this way. It's also why I chose today, when Jake is out of town, so that we can get frisky in the living room, which is usually a no-sex zone. Jamie scrambles out of his pajama pants, or bottoms as he calls them, and pushes me down against the carpet, straddling my waist. I immediately grab his ass, moving him so our cocks line up perfectly as our lips crash back together. The feel of him moving against me is so good I'm almost lightheaded, and when he reaches down to squeeze my nipples between his fingers, I can't help losing a low, rumbling groan and arching up into the touch. Lube, he murmurs, dragging his teeth along the underside of my jaw. I blindly reach out to where I'm pretty sure I dropped the bottle of lube and feel around for a moment before wrapping my hand around it. I hand it to Jamie and he sits up, squeezing a little onto his fingers and giving me a show as he leans back with his weight on one hand while he fingers his hole with the other. The sight of him, with his face all flushed as his fingers move in and out of his glistening hole, makes me damn near ready to explode. Fucking hell. You better hurry the fuck up and get on my cock, Red. I growl, knowing he's deliberately drawing this out to tease me. He offers me a sexy grin and withdraws his fingers. He quickly applies some lube to my cock and then positions himself so he can sink down onto it, his expression one of pure bliss as I fill him up. I grab onto his waist and snap my hips up, fucking deeper inside him just as he pushes back down against me. Fuck. I groan, unable to hold it in. He's so frickin' beautiful, the way he's riding me right now with complete abandon, his face flushed pink, blue eyes blazing with desire, mouth slightly parted as he lets out breathless groan after breathless groan, and his thick, reddened cock slapping back and forth against my stomach with each one of his movements. Jesus. I have to be the luckiest guy alive to be able to call this incredible man my fiancé. Gripping Jamie's hips, I lift him off my cock and toss him front down against the floor. I move up behind him and, quickly checking I don't have any of the fucking glitter stuck on my cock, thrust back into his tight little hole. He lets out a sexy little groan at the sensation of me filling him again. It's a sound that's so fucking familiar and so beautiful, I'll never get tired of hearing it. I lean forward so my body's molded against his back, my arms bracing my weight on either side of him. Dropping my head, I suck hard against the back of his neck, marking his pale skin. Jesus, Shay, bloody hell, Jamie cries as I continue to fuck him. I tug at his gorgeous red hair, tilting his head back and letting out a chuckle as I see half his face is covered with glitter. I kiss him anyway. Fuck, I love you. I want to say more, tell him how much I appreciate him, and how grateful I am to have him in my life, and how him accepting my proposal made me happier than I ever thought I could possibly be. But any further declarations are cut off as I feel my orgasm ripping through me. With a deep, strangled groan, I come in a hard rush, filling Jamie's ass. He follows right after, and when I finally pull out and turn him over, I can't help the burst of laughter that escapes me as I catch sight of the clumps of glitter sticking to his cum-coated dick. I get to my feet and help Jamie up, tugging him through the apartment and toward our ensuite for a much-needed shower. "So, what did you think of the glitter?" I ask him once we're under the hot spray of the shower. "Was it as good as you imagined?" Honestly, it was bloody itchy." I chuckle. "Yep, I can vouch for that. And I think you'll have to help me get clean here. I have some lodged places." Jamie arches one red eyebrow. "I think my knob is the main priority, babe. Unless you want a sparkly mouth the next time you give me a blowjob." I grin and squeeze some shower gel into my palm, getting to work on de-glittering my fiancée. Later in the morning, we spend some time chatting with Jamie's mom and granddad, who live in England. It's late afternoon there, and both Edward and Sarah are rugged up in big woolly sweaters, drinking mugs of tea. "So, what did you guys do today?" Jamie asks. "Oh, you know, the usual," Sarah says. "They put on a nice turn down at the pub, so we stopped in there for lunch. Your granddad overindulged on Christmas pudding," she adds in a stern voice that, judging by her narrowed eyes, was obviously meant for Edward. "I had 2 servings, and they were tiny balls," Edward says defensively. "I didn't even have custard." "No, just a river of cream," Sarah shoots back. Edward shakes his head in exasperation. "Jamie, if your mom had her way, I'd eat nothing but rabbit food." "I'm sure she just wants what's best for you," Jamie reasons. Obviously deciding to change the subject, he asks, "So, you're not going to Sandy's this year?" I'm pretty sure Sandy is one of Sarah's cousins on her father's side. From memory, that's where Jamie celebrated his family Christmas last year when he was still based in London. Sarah shakes her head, her eyes wide. "No, we can't. Sandy's a witch now and doesn't celebrate any religious holidays." "She's a what?" Jamie asks, his brows practically in his hairline. I have to admit, I'm pretty confused right now, too. "A witch," Sarah repeats. "Like in Harry Potter?" I ask. "Does she do magic and stuff? Is that even a real thing?" Sarah shrugs. "I don't know. She just called one day and said she's a witch now, so she couldn't host Christmas and suggested I make alternative arrangements." Jamie and I exchanged a brief, baffled glance. "Maybe we should send Sunny over," I suggest. "This sounds like her kind of person." Chapter 12. Blake. "Morning, beautiful." I offer Owen a smile full of affection as I see him coming around the corner into the kitchen, looking gorgeous as ever in his cotton pajama pants and one of my hoodies. He's bleary-eyed, and his hair looks like a bird's nest, but he smiles in response. "Morning. Merry Christmas." He pads over to where I'm standing by the counter mixing up the batter for crepes, and I reach out an arm for him, pulling him against me and kissing his forehead. "Merry Christmas, sweetheart." "Any updates?" he asks as he moves toward the fridge and retrieves a package of strawberries. I know exactly what he's referring to, and I can't help the grin that spreads across my face. He said yes. Owen chuckles. "Did you think he wouldn't?" I shrug. You never know. Shay can be a lot to take sometimes. "That's what makes them such a good couple," Owen reasons. "I can't imagine there's anyone else on the planet who'd be able to put up with either of them." I laugh outright at the very accurate assessment of both my best friend and son. Owen digs a cutting board out from one of the drawers and begins slicing up the strawberries, while I shut the blender off and set the batter aside before starting on the chocolate sauce. We're almost done with our prep, and I'm getting the pan ready to cook the crepes when Owen's iPad, which is sitting on the other side of the counter, starts blaring with an incoming FaceTime call. Oh, it's Jai. Owen reaches over the counter to answer the call, propping his tablet up so we can both see the smiling face of his best friend. Merry Christmas, Your Highness, Owen says with a teasing grin. I chuckle, knowing how Jai hates being treated like royalty, despite the fact he legitimately is royal, having recently married the King of Korova. Merry Christmas, Jai grumbles wryly. I've got to say, I'm relieved to see you both dressed at least, not with your dicks flying about like usual. That was one time, I say with an aggravated sigh, and it was an accident. PIN codes might have saved the world from butt dialing, but I'm not sure there's anything anyone can do about butt answering. I'm not sure why you got so upset about that, Owen says. It's not like we look bad when we're having sex. How do you know what you look like? Jai asks, his brows drawn together in curiosity. Then his face lights with excitement. Wait, have you guys filmed yourselves? I don't think we should answer that, I say carefully. Oh my God, you have, haven't you? Jai demands eagerly. Was it awesome? I've been trying to talk Lucas into it, but he's worried someone might see it. Yeah, I can see why that might be a concern, Owen says. How are the kids? I ask, changing the subject. Jai's entire face lights up. Great! Thomas will be going off to France next year for school, so I'm kind of smothering him as much as I can at the moment. I'm sure when he's older he'll look back on this period as a very traumatic time, but... He trails off with a shrug. I decide to let Owen and Jai talk for a little on their own while I get back to the crepes, and by the time I've finished cooking and have a pile of delicious sweet crepes ready, Owen is off the call. Owen's eyes fall closed as he groans around the piece of strawberries and chocolate-filled crepe he's just stuffed in his mouth. God, this is amazing. I can tell, I say with a chuckle, trying not to think about how much Owen looks as though he's actually turned on right now. Thinking that will only turn me on. Owen's eyes flash open, and he pins me with a teasing look. This is why I married you, you know. The cooking. I arch a brow at him. Oh, really? He nods, stuffing another bite of crepe in his mouth. Yep. I really can't think of any other reasons. I mean, I guess the money's kinda nice, and you're not too bad to look at, and you're okay in bed. Okay? He shrugs. For an old guy, you keep up pretty well. I let out a bark of laughter and push my empty plate aside as I lean over the counter to get right up in front of Owen. If you're trying to taunt me into fucking you right here in the kitchen, it's not going to work, sweetheart. We've got guests coming in a couple of hours, and I've got to get to work. I step back and start gathering the dirty dishes from the crepes. Grinning at a glum-looking Owen, I say, That's why you married me, right? The cooking? It's a good thing Owen and I don't get up to anything R-rated in the kitchen today, because my mother ends up showing up at our house an hour and a half earlier than expected, and she's not alone. Unlike her usual plus ones, this one isn't male or human. MJ, Owen calls, crouching down to greet our 7-month-old puppy as she races into his arms. What are you doing here, gorgeous girl? Sonny, you know the whole point of her staying with you was so she wouldn't be underfoot today, right? I say to my mom. Oh, I know, Sonny says, reaching to where Owen has MJ cradled in his arms and giving her fluffy gray fur a tousle. But I couldn't bear to leave her all alone on Christmas. That's right, my darling girl, she says directly to MJ, who is just lapping up the attention she's getting from all sides. Granny loves you, and she wasn't going to leave you all alone. I roll my eyes. She's a dog, Sonny, not human. You know that, right? Sonny blocks MJ's ears, as if she needs to shield the puppy from my words. Until you give me human grandchildren, which wouldn't kill you, I might add, she's all I have. I stare at her for a long moment, my brow creased in confusion. What are you talking about? You have grandchildren. Yes, but Jamie's all grown. And Damon's kids are in Detroit. You know I can't go there. It has such negative energy. I shake my head, managing to keep the eye roll at bay. I know she's not referring to Detroit itself, but rather her experiences there while she was married to my father. Don't worry, Blakey Bear, Sonny says in a soothing voice as she reaches out to stroke my arm. This little angel won't be any trouble today, I promise. The way my mother keeps the dog out of trouble is by simply feeding her morsel after morsel from her own plate while we're sitting down for lunch. In other words, the past 4 months of Owen and me training MJ not to beg at the table have basically gone down the drain in one afternoon. It's a pretty small gathering, with just Sonny, Shay, Jamie, Finn, Owen, and me digging into my famous chicken parmesan. I guess most of Owen's other siblings are celebrating with in-laws, or maybe keeping things quiet with their immediate family this year. And that's fine by me. We did our big celebration with the Kellys on the weekend, and a nice, quiet lunch today seems perfect. I'm also really glad that I get to be the first person to toast Shay and Jamie on their engagement. As unconventional as the situation is, I honestly couldn't be happier for my best buddy or my son. When they walked into our house with little flecks of glitter shining in their hair and on their skin, I decided not to even ask. But when Finn showed me the photos of what they'd done to the living room, the answer to that question became pretty obvious. Jesus, how did you manage to do all that overnight? I ask as I glance at the photos of Shay's epic proposal. I'm glad Owen's not the kind of guy who likes big romantic gestures, because I can't see myself pulling something like this off. Although I did organize for us to get married by a king. It was an elaborate plan with several moving parts, Shay says. Finn rolls his eyes. He had all the shit delivered to my hotel room, and then Deck and Heath helped me bring it all over last night. Then I stayed to help Jake and Shay set up. Meanwhile, I had the job of fucking Jamie into such a state of blissful oblivion he'd be completely out of it and not notice us moving around in the living room. Wow. That is so exactly what I needed to know about my best friend and my son, I deadpan. I think it's healthy that you're so open and honest about sex, Sonny says, because, of course. What else would my mother say in the middle of Christmas lunch? Your ability to please your partner so thoroughly is a good thing, Shay. You should be proud. She holds up her glass as if to toast him. Shay grins. Oh, I am. Chapter 13. Jake. Shay Kelly. He said yes, smile emoji, engagement ring emoji. Me. That's awesome. Told you there was nothing to worry about. Me. It was the glitter that sealed the deal, wasn't it? Shay Kelly. Yup. Definitely the winning touch. Expertly scattered, so well done. Shay was the one who'd had the idea of putting the glitter all over the floor, but I was the one who ended up actually doing it last night when I was helping him and Finn set everything up. You'd think scattering a whole heap of glitter and foil confetti over a carpeted floor would be pretty simple, wouldn't you? Nope. It was a nightmare trying to get it just right so that the floor was evenly coated and there weren't big clumps in certain spots and bare patches in others. Making matters worse was Shay's insistence that I wasn't allowed to step in it once it was finally done. Considering the living room is right between my bedroom and the front door, that was a bit of a challenge this morning. Shay Kelly. I'm not sure I'd recommend having sex and glitter, though. I still have it stuck places you really wouldn't want glitter to be stuck. I groan, letting my head fall back against the headrest. It's not like I didn't assume they'd end up having sex and all that glitter, but assuming is different than knowing for sure. Now I'm going to have the image of it whenever I set foot in the living room. Not to mention that I so don't need to know about where Shay might currently have glitter stuck. Me. TMI, man. Just way too TMI. Shay Kelly. Just way too much information? Jake, you know how much I hate redundant wording. We have this discussion every time you say the phrase PIN number. Me. Eye roll emoji. Me. I have to get out of the car now, or Mom will think I'm avoiding going inside. Shay Kelly. You are avoiding going inside. Me. Yeah, but I don't want it to be a whole thing. Shay Kelly. Good luck, buddy. Me. Thanks. Congratulations. I let out a steadying breath and finally push open the driver door, stepping out and shoving my phone and keys into my jacket pocket before slamming the door closed and trudging up the driveway toward my mom's house. Took you long enough to get out of the car, my stepdad grumbles upon opening the front door. I let out a heavy sigh before stepping over the threshold. Hey, Trevor. What the hell were you doing out there? Trevor demands, eyes narrowed. Jesus, was he watching me through the blinds or something? Probably. I'm surprised he didn't come out and rap on my car window. I was texting with Shay. He got engaged this morning, so I was congratulating him. That prompts Trevor to let out a derisive snort as he turns and walks back through the house. Engaged. Men like that can't get married. Not properly. Actually, they can, I say simply. I should really be saying we, not they, but I don't have the energy to deal with that particular can of worms today. Don't talk back to me, you little smartass, he growls. Just because it's legal doesn't make it right. Completely unnatural, he mutters, trailing off with a shake of his head. I give a sigh of exasperation, but say nothing. I feel like I've just rewound the clock 1.5 years to before I went to live with Shay, when I was constantly walking on eggshells, constantly afraid of what Trevor would do if he found out about me being gay. He was never violent, but he had other ways of imposing his will, and the fact that my mom has always been such a fucking doormat meant that if Trevor ever found out about me, I'd have been completely at his mercy. I have no doubt he would have convinced my mom conversion therapy was the best option. Thank God for Shay and Jamie, is all I can say. Trevor was fucking furious when it was decided I'd be going to live with my fag cousin, and only calmed down when he realized it meant I'd be out of his and Mom's hair and they'd no longer have to deal with me. I'm sure there was also a decent-sized part of him that was reluctant to give up the control he had over me, but considering that at that point in time I was hell-bent on flouting authority at every opportunity, he probably figured it wasn't a huge sacrifice. Where's Mom? I ask unenthusiastically. I feel so completely drained already, and I've only been in the house 5 minutes. It was the same when I came home for Christmas last year. All I can think is, thank God I'll be 18 next year and won't ever have to set foot in this house again. In the kitchen, Trevor grumbles. Don't upset her with any of your fag wedding talk. I roll my eyes. Mom's actually good friends with Shay, or at least she was until she married this homophobic jackass. I can't imagine her being upset by talk of his engagement, but whatever. I follow the hallway through to the small kitchen area, finding my mom busy preparing lunch, which looks to be roast chicken with mashed potatoes. When she sees me, her face lights up, and she rounds the counter to give me a hug. Hi, honey. I'm sorry, lunch is running a little late. Are you hungry? I smile at her. I'm fine. I stopped on the way for some food, so take your time. I wanted to get out of the apartment early this morning to give Shay space for the proposal, but I was in no rush to actually get to Mom and Trevor's, so I ended up whiling away about 2 hours at a roadside diner. She pats me affectionately on the shoulder before returning to her work in the kitchen. So, what's news? I tell her about all the things that have been going on lately. My cousins settling down with their partners, Brendan's baby, our rugby team's near win in the recent 7 tournaments, and yes, Shay's proposal. Despite Trevor's warning, she seems happy to hear all of it. I probably don't talk to her as often as I should, but I know Shay keeps her up to date with the big things, like how my schooling's going. I just sometimes find it hard not to feel resentful at how easily she finds it to turn a blind eye to Trevor's bigotry, and it's just easier not to engage with her, especially when I'm in New York, which has become my happy place. I was thinking maybe this afternoon the two of us could do something together, I suggest. Maybe see a movie or something? She looks at me quizzically. Why would we do that? Because I want to spend time with you without that asshole around? Obviously, I don't say that, though. I just shrug and affect a nonchalant air. I just thought it'd be nice to do something together. Just the two of us? She offers me a soft smile. Jake, honey, Christmas is about family. We should all celebrate together. I bite down on my jaw in frustration. I want to scream at her for not understanding how a man who despises everything I am could never be considered family. But I know that won't do any good. Trying to get through to her about Trevor is like pounding on a soundproof door and hoping someone will answer. I nod, swallowing hard. Maybe you're right. But, Mom, this isn't my family anymore. The Kellys are. So once I turn 18 next year, I'll be spending Christmas with them. Mom stares at me aghast. Jake, how could you say that? Because it's the truth, I mutter. She purses her lips and gets back to mashing the potatoes, her actions more forceful than before. We'll discuss this later. Today, I just want a nice lunch with the two of you getting along for once. That seems like asking for a miracle to me, but I nonetheless decide to give it my best shot. When it comes time to eat, I take my mom's request to heart and do my absolute best to avoid any hot-button topics with Trevor, instead sticking to safe zones like football and hockey. Everything's going fine until my phone buzzes in my pocket and I pull it out, chuckling when I see the text. What's so funny? Trevor demands. My mom sighs. Jake, you really shouldn't be looking at your phone while we're eating. Sorry, I mutter and move to return my phone to my pocket. I want to know what was so important, Trevor says, eyeing me coolly. I give a soft shake of my head. It was nothing, really. Apparently, Connor's son Chase took a step today, but there's a bit of a debate whether it actually counts as his first step or not because he fell over right afterward. My mom smiles affectionately, but across the table, Trevor narrows his eyes. People like that shouldn't be allowed to have children. He shakes his head in disgust. Imagine an innocent child living under that influence. I don't bother pointing out Chase is Connor's biological son and the result of a fling with a woman. It's completely irrelevant. Besides, I've reached my threshold for how much of Trevor's shit I can put up with. Pushing back my chair, I toss my napkin on the table and get to my feet. You know what, Trevor? I say, glaring at my stepfather. Fuck you. Jake! My mom gasps. I turn to her, my gaze softening, but just barely. I'm done. I'm going home. I stalk down the hallway and toward the front door, grabbing my coat and angrily shoving my arms into it. I can hear my mom trailing after me, but I just keep walking until I'm outside. Jake, wait! Mom calls, following me out of the house. We haven't even had dessert yet. I spin around, eyeing her incredulously. Dessert? Seriously? That's her card? I shake my head. Seeing as how I feel like I'm about to throw up any second, I'm not sure dessert's the best idea. Honey, please, she begs. This is why, I growl. This is why I'm not coming back next year. Or ever. I cannot be in the same room as that asshole. Actually, as Jamie would say, that's an insult to assholes. Assholes are actually pretty amazing. He's really a nice man underneath all that, she says quietly. And he treats me so well. Oh my God, just stop, I practically shout. Stop making excuses for him. Stop defending a man who thinks your own son is subhuman. Her confused expression just makes me even more frustrated, although I know that's not entirely fair, considering I've been hiding my true self from her for a long time. What are you talking about? I'm talking about the fact that I'm gay. I throw my hands in the air in exasperation. So maybe you can see why it's a bit difficult for me to just look past all that, I say using air quotes. But honestly, Mom, the fact that you can look past it? I let out a heavy sigh, shaking my head in disappointment. It's just pathetic. Having said everything I needed to say, I turn and start toward my car. Merry Christmas, I mutter. Jake, wait, Mom calls in a small, desperate voice. You're not 18 yet. I could withdraw the affidavit. I could have Shay removed as your guardian. I spin around, my eyes flashing dangerously. I can tell by her expression it's not a legitimate threat, but that does nothing to quell my anger. Try it and I'll get myself emancipated. It's not like I haven't already looked into that. It was my plan prior to Shay taking me in. You owe me, I tell her, my tone softening somewhat. 9 years I've put up with that asshole. You owe me this. Finally, she nods, seeming to just crumple in on herself. Okay. If you ever want to see me, you can come to New York, but don't even think about bringing him with you. She nods again, and I move toward my car again. Don't I at least get a hug? Mom asks, offering a shaky smile. I let out a soft sigh and step forward to wrap my arms around her thin frame. Despite everything, she's still my mom, and I love her. I just can't see what kind of place she could have in my life as long as she's tied to Trevor. Thank God for Shay and Jamie. Chapter 14. Heath. Are you ready for your Christmas present, babe? I ask Deck as I stalk across the living room to join him on the sofa. I push Bucky's head away so I can sit on Declan's lap, straddling his waist. Declan offers a sexy smirk, his arms coming up to palm my ass. If it's more sex, I might need to fuel up first. This morning kind of sapped all my energy. I roll my hips against him, letting out a soft hum as our bodies connect. I thread my fingers through his hair and lean down to brush my lips over his jaw. No, not more sex, I murmur. You'll need all your strength for this afternoon with my family. Deck chuckles. Well, if we're not going to fuck, I'm going to need you to get off me because my dick's not getting the message. Reluctantly, I climb off Declan's lap and stalk over to the tree that's taken up half our living room. I crouch down and retrieve the small wrapped gift I sneaked under there last night. I return to Declan and hand him the gift, leaning down to brush a kiss against his lightly stubbled cheek. Merry Christmas, babe. With a smile, he tears open the wrapping to reveal a framed picture of a gorgeous Brooklyn brownstone. I mean, it's maybe not as impressive as Blake and Owen's mansion, but it's still beautiful. What is this? Deck asks, his brows furrowed in confusion as he studies the picture. It's a house, I tell him, barely able to contain my excitement. Our house. His eyes widen in shock. Heath, are you kidding? You bought us a house? Well, technically I haven't bought it yet. I thought you might want to see it first. Yeah, you thought right, he mutters at the photo, his expression formed into a tight frown. Where is this place anyway? Brooklyn. It's actually only a few blocks from the clinic. But a house? He asks, still clearly confused. What even brought this on? I shrug. Ever since Aiden mentioned the other day how he and Ben will probably look for something bigger once they start a family, I haven't been able to get the idea out of my mind. I started looking around just to see what was out there, and then I found this one, and it's perfect. I went to see it yesterday, and let me tell you, the inside is just as impressive as the outside. Declan blinks at me. You went to see it already? Well, yeah. I wanted to make sure it wasn't hideous. Heath, we're about to have a baby. I narrow my eyes. Why do I get the feeling you're not 100% on board with this house thing? Probably because I'm not 100% on board with this house thing, Deck says, his voice getting oddly high-pitched. We're about to have a baby. We spent 3 months on the nursery. You changed your mind about the color scheme 3 times. Do you know how long it took to paint over those eggplant walls? He waved his hands around in clear frustration. They were eggplant, Heath. Eggplant! I let out a heavy sigh. Okay, I'm going to be in the bedroom when you decide to stop being ridiculous. As I walk toward our room, I hear Declan calling after me. Since when am I the ridiculous one in this relationship? I grab my Kindle from my nightstand and relax back on the bed. But I've only managed to read a couple pages when Deck appears in the bedroom doorway, a contrite expression on his face. I'm sorry. I was being an ass. He comes toward the bed, and I move over a little so he can sit down. Looking deep into my eyes, he says, I really appreciate the thought. And I love that you're thinking about our future. I'm just worried this might be too much for us right now. I sent him a beseeching look. Will you at least come and look at the place? I know as soon as he sees it, he'll fall completely in love, and that'll be that. Deck lets out a heavy sigh. I'll think about it. Have you picked names yet? My mom asks as we dig into the Chinese food later in the day. If they have, they're not telling, Lila grumbles. They're like Fort Knox when it comes to that info. And the reason for that is because we still haven't settled on anything. Considering how easily Declan and I have always clicked, you'd think deciding baby names would be relatively easy. But no. It seems everything I like, he hates. And everything he likes sounds as though it belongs in a young adult book. I mean, is Pharaoh even a name? Well, how about Donald? Mom suggests, reaching over to rub my dad's shoulder. If it's a boy, of course. That would be a firm no, I say. What? I thought it would be nice to name him for your father, especially considering you gave up the family name. Not that I disapprove of you doing that. That's a nice idea. In theory, Dex says carefully. But we can't name our son that. Sorry, Don. Dad shakes his head, shoving a forkful of Szechuan beef into his mouth. You'll get no argument from me. Well, whatever you decide for the name, just make sure you call us the second the baby's born, okay? Mom insists. Of course we will, I assure her. I promise. Even before they get all the goopy stuff off, we'll have you on the phone. Mom's mouth turns into a slight frown. Well, you can let them claim the poor thing first, Heath. But don't dally with letting me know what the sex is. If it's a boy, we'll need to move quickly on the bris. She shakes her head. This time of year, and with you two living so far away, the logistics will be a nightmare. I exchange a glance with Declan, whose features have formed into a wide-eyed, panicked expression. Mom, let me save you some worry. There won't be a bris. Mom looks aghast. Heath, David, are you telling me my grandson won't be circumcised? Okay, well, first of all, you might not even have a grandson, I point out. But yeah, if it's a boy, he won't be getting circumcised. But Heath, Mom, calm down. This isn't about religion. Although the fact that Deck's Catholic does come into a tiny bit. But mainly it's a personal choice. What kind of personal choice? Mom presses. Well, I glance around, from my sister to my mom to my dad, and finally to Deck. With a sigh, I decide to just blurt it out. Declan loves when I play with his foreskin, and I don't want to deprive my son of that pleasure. My mom's mouth falls open in shock. Across the table, I see my dad with an egg roll paused midway toward his mouth. He glances at it for a second, and then returns it to the box it came from. Thanks for not waiting until after we've eaten to share that information, Lila deadpans. Chapter 15. Aiden. And this is my unicorn, and this is my Barbie doll, And this is my Elsa backpack. And this is my coloring book. I follow Ben's 3-year-old niece Katie around as she points out all her presents. Wow, these are amazing. You must have been really good this year for Santa to leave you all this cool stuff. She nods solemnly. I was very good. Not all the time, but most of the time. My brows shoot up. Well, maybe next year you can work on being good all the time. She frowns thoughtfully. I try, but sometimes I don't remember. Hey, Katie, why don't you make Aiden some tea? Ben's sister Maddie suggests. Her eyes alight, Katie rushes over to where a toy kitchen is set up by the far wall and busies herself making tea. She has a little toy teapot that's bright pink and lights up, playing I'm a Little Teapot as she pours the imaginary tea. When she's finished, she rushes back over to me carrying a little pink cup and saucer. She's moving so quick she'd be slopping tea all over the place if there was actually anything in the cup. I take the proffered tea from her and pretend to drink. You know, I'm normally a coffee drinker, but this tea is delicious. She beams, and then forces about 6 more cups of imaginary tea on me. It's a good thing it's just thin air, or I'd be peeing all night. Katie, I think Aiden's had enough tea, Maddie says with a giggle. We don't want to spoil his dinner. Katie skids to a halt in front of me, but instead of offering more tea, she just beams up at me. Guess what, Aiden? I'm having chicken nuggies for dinner. I grin back at her. Oh, yum. Chicken nuggets are the best. It's Christmas night, and Ben and I are at his sister's place for a family dinner. We took it pretty easy today, just going to see a movie and grabbing some burgers before coming home and FaceTiming with some of my family. It's nice to be having dinner with family tonight, though, and it's even better that Maddie's husband, Jared, who's an amazing cook, is in charge of the menu. My stomach is absolutely growling at the scents coming from the kitchen as my future brother-in-law prepares the truffle oil pasta. Not that I wouldn't still be happy if we were all sharing Katie's frozen chicken nuggets. So, I guess you're well and truly settled into Austin now, Maddie says to me as we eat dinner. No second thoughts? I find Ben's hand under the table, giving it a squeeze. In the months since we moved to Austin, I haven't regretted 1 second. I love seeing how happy Ben is here, especially when he's with his family. I wouldn't go back on my decision to move here for anything. I shake my head, offering Maddie a soft smile. Definitely not. I love it here, and I was more than ready for a change. Another thing I haven't regretted is my decision to quit my old show. It caused quite a stir when word got out, especially when I came out publicly as pansexual and Ellie came out as transgender, and we spoke out about the shitty way we, and Ellie in particular, had been treated during our time on the show. I hope it will help other people to know they don't have to put up with that kind of bullshit, that they have the ability to take back their power from the people trying to push them down. It wasn't meant as a promotion opportunity for our new show, but rather as a way to shed light on some of the backward views that still exist within the entertainment industry, and in society in general, if we're being honest. But as it happens, it has created a lot of positive buzz for Queer America, which will be launching early next year. Back before her transition, when she was still allowed an on-camera role, Ellie had so many fans, and it's amazing to see how excited they all are about her return to TV. What about the wedding? You're thinking September, right? Maddie asks, twirling some spaghetti around on her fork. I see Ben roll his eyes. I've already told you where we're up to with that. We know when and where, and that's about it. Is there anything else you really need to do? Jared asks, his brow furrowed. Of course there is, Jared, Maddie cries. It's a wedding, there's loads to do. But it's not like they're spending months getting fitted for a handmade gown like you did. And they probably don't care about flowers or what font goes on the invitations. Maddie rolls her eyes. Just because you didn't care doesn't mean every guy's like that. And it wasn't handmade, she clarifies. It was custom made. To me and Ben, she says, "Really, you guys need to be more organized if you're getting married in less than a year. You need to book an officiant, organize flowers, make a guest list, order invitations, get measured for your suits, book dance lessons." I blink at her a few times. Dance lessons? Why the hell do we need dance lessons? For your first dance. Don't you want it to be special? She glances between us, her expression nervous, as though she's concerned that if we fuck up our first dance, it'll doom our entire marriage. "What song have you chosen?" "Actually, I was thinking Another One Bites the Dust. I really rock that one," I say with a grin. Ben chuckles. "It's true, he does." Turning to me, he adds, "Although I'm not sure I like the idea of you dancing in your underwear in the middle of our wedding. I'm the only one who gets to see that." Maddie groans, burying her face in her hands. "You guys are the worst!" Chapter 16. Brendan. "She's down?" Wade asks in a whisper as I tiptoe into our bedroom. I nod, a broad grin stretching across my face as I see him lying there on the bed, already naked and waiting for me. Yep, she's down. I shut the bedroom door and stalk over to the bed, climbing onto the mattress and stripping off my t-shirt as I lean down over Wade to claim his lips in an eager kiss. His arms come up around me and I collapse onto him, grinding against him and savoring the feel of our bodies moving together. It feels like forever since we've had a moment for each other, with Christmas and a brand new baby and Baxter on winter break right now. It's like we've been pulled in all different directions. Finally tearing myself away from Wade, I reach into the nightstand drawer and retrieve the Christmas present I bought him, a blue vibrating dildo. It has 10 speeds, and I can't wait to try them all out. "Wait, what is it?" I ask, a little alarmed by his tone. "Did you remember to set the sensor pads for the monitor?" I blink a few times, manually clearing my head of the sex fog to focus on what he's asking. "Right, the baby monitor." Yeah." "Are you sure?" Wade presses, his brow drawn tight. "Pretty sure." Knowing there's no way Wade will be back in the mood until this is cleared up, I slide off the bed and toss him the lube. "I'll go make sure. Get yourself ready. As soon as I get back, I'm so fucking your ass with that dildo." I close our bedroom door behind me and quickly cross the hall into Arya's room. I check the monitor and confirm that I did indeed set the sensors. With a wry shake of my head, I set the monitor down and move back into the hallway. I'm about to open our bedroom door again when I hear a rush of little footsteps, and then I'm being tackled around the waist. "BB, help!" I glance down at my son, the dim hallway light showing his face full of distress. "What's wrong, buddy? Why are you out of bed?" "I had a nightmare," he wails. "There was a fisherman and a fish that bited me." Okay. I'm not entirely sure how to respond to such a random tale. What happened to the classics, like there was a monster under my bed? I pry Baxter's grip from around my waist and crouch down so I can speak to him at eye level. "You know nightmares aren't real, don't you?" He nods, but it doesn't really seem like he takes my words to heart, because his eyes are still wide and fearful, and he starts to cry. "The fish was really," he draws in a sobbing breath, "big." I let out a soft sigh and wrap my arms around him, running my hand in soothing motions over his back. "Okay, let me just check with Daddy to see if it's okay for you to sleep in our bed tonight." "Wait here," I tell him firmly, before cracking our door open and slipping inside. I let out a little whimper of disappointment when I see Wade fingering himself and stroking his cock, but I brush it aside and grab his pajama pants from the floor, tossing them to him. "Get dressed, Andy. We've got company tonight." "You're going to think I'm the best boyfriend ever," I say to Wade a couple days later as I approach him in the bathroom, wrapping my arms around him from behind and pressing my lips against his neck. He chuckles and wipes his face with a towel. "I already think you're the best boyfriend ever." He turns to face me, and I grabbed the towel from his hand, lifting it to get the tiny bit of shaving cream he missed by his ear. Yeah, but now you're going to really love me. Wade grins. Oh yeah? Why's that? Because Liam and Melinda agreed to have Baxter for a sleepover tonight. So if he has a nightmare, they can deal with it. The fisherman and giant fish have been back the last 2 nights, which means our bed has been too crowded for my liking. Wade and I still haven't managed to carve out any time to test out that dildo. And if the fish comes back and Liam and Melinda decide they don't ever want him sleeping at their place again? Wade asks with an arched eyebrow. Are you sure you want to burn that bridge? I wave his concern away. I doubt it'll be an issue with Wyatt there. Wade considers this for a moment. I guess you have a point. Grinning at me, he steps closer and slides his hands up my waist. You're right. I do love you more now. I lean forward and press my lips to his, letting the towel fall from my hand as I wrap my arms around him, my hands coming up to thread through his mess of sandy hair. I breathe in the clean, freshly shaven scent of him, humming with pleasure against his lips as our bodies mold together, and I feel... We break apart. The sound of our daughter screeching through the monitor is like a bucket of cold water. I let out a heavy sigh and step away from Wade. I'll go. Baxter will probably be up soon anyway. Baxter's nighttime woes are at least helping him to sleep in a little later in the morning, but that's cold comfort to us when his presence in our bed is preventing us from getting much sleep ourselves, and preventing us from doing other things. But tonight, we'll be getting a night to ourselves, and hopefully a night of fun with his bestie will be all Baxter needs to get over this weird fisherman thing. Oh, come on, baby girl, I murmur as I walk a fussing Arya up and down the hallway for about the 50 gazillionth time tonight. It's time for you to go to sleep. Your daddies really need to get laid. Clearly having no sympathy for our plight, Arya just continues to wail and fuss. I've tried all our usual tricks, bouncing her against my shoulder, swooping her in my arms, letting her sit in her motorized swing. Nothing's working, and I can't figure out what's bothering her. She's not hungry or wet. She doesn't have a fever. Even that nappy rash is basically all cleared up. Eventually, I give up and call my mom, who, after raising 11 of her own, is somewhat of an expert when it comes to babies. Have you tried a pacifier? She asks. Well, actually, we weren't going to use one. There's all this research. Oh, Brendan, don't be so modern, she snaps. The child's in distress. Just give her a blasted binky. Okay, I say quickly, before she can start on a rant about modern parenthood. Thanks, bye. Hey, what's going on? I glance up to see Wade has emerged from the bedroom, looking totally sexy with his hair all sleep mussed. The plan had been for me to put Arya down and then join him in bed, but it's been so long now he obviously fell asleep while waiting for me. Here, can you take her? I ask, handing Arya to him. I need to find a binky. I'm pretty sure Kate gave us some a while back. They must be somewhere. I stalk into Arya's room and start opening all the drawers and looking through cupboards, eventually stumbling upon a pack of pacifiers that I remember Wade saying we should keep around just in case. I glance up at him to find his eyes lit with amusement, despite the fact Arya is still wailing in his arms. Don't even say it, I warn. We don't know this is going to work. These things aren't magical anti-crying devices. They're pretty much the closest thing to it, Wade says wryly. Sorry for being concerned about our daughter's inner ear and cavities, I grumble, handing Wade a binky. He offers it to Arya, and I have to reluctantly admit that it seems to help. It's not instantaneous, but she seems to be more focused on sucking it than crying, and after a little while, she seems to calm down completely. Why don't you go get yourself ready, and I'll put her down, Wade suggests. I arch an eyebrow at him, my mouth curving into a grin. Me get ready? Well, I like the sound of that. The next morning, I wake with Wade's arms wrapped around me and my ass feeling not even remotely sore. I scan my memories back to last night and then bolt upright in horror. I punch Wade in the shoulder and he lets out a grunt on annoyance. Ow! What was that for? We didn't have sex last night. He slowly sits up, rubbing his eyes. I know. You were already asleep when I came back in. You should have woken me. B, we've been running on about 2 hours of sleep a night for the past 2 weeks now. I wasn't going to wake you just so I could stick my dick in you. I grip his chin and lean forward to pin him with a stern look. For future reference, that is always a good reason to wake me. Chapter 17. Jamie. Okay, so I think the first thing we need to do is set a date, I say, curling up on the settee next to Shay, iPad in hand. Once we do that, everything else will just fall into place. Shay nods. I suppose you'll want to coordinate around Will, so we're not clashing over dates and whatever. I shrug. You're the one who's all obsessed with thunderstealing. Obviously, we don't want the same day as them, but I couldn't care less if it's in the same month or whatever. I unlock my tablet and open the calendar app. What we really need to work around are your brother's weddings. Connor and Josh want spring next year, I say, scanning through the calendar. Do you know when Aiden and Ben want? I think they're aiming for September, Shay says. They're talking about going to Oktoberfest for their honeymoon? My brows shoot up. How romantic. Shay grins at me. Don't worry, Red. I've got something much better thought out for us. Oh, yeah? I rise to my knees and shuffle over so I can straddle his waist, my arms coming up to link around his neck. What are you thinking? Shay's hands slip down my back, resting on my arse and giving a firm squeeze. His eyes flare as he starts describing what sounds like the sexiest holiday imaginable. I was thinking somewhere tropical, like the Caribbean or Fiji, something like that, with a little bungalow and a private beach. There'll be incredible food and drink, and no one to disturb us, and maybe a nice lagoon we can swim in. I love a good lagoon, I purr, brushing my lips along his jaw and rolling my hips to create some incredible friction. Before we can get to any of the good stuff, though, my phone starts blaring. Bloody hell, I grumble, sliding off Shay's lap and stalking toward the kitchen counter to grab my phone. I have every intention of just switching it off, but then I see it's my mom calling, and I know I have to answer. She hardly ever calls out of the blue, so I know this must be important. Hi, Mom, what's up? Oh, Jamie. My gut plummets at the shakiness in her voice. Something is seriously wrong. It's Granddad. What do you mean? What's happened? Obviously sensing something's wrong, Shay rises from the sofa and strides across the room, wrapping me in his strong arms. I immediately sink into his hold, drawing comfort from his presence. He's had a heart attack, Mom says. He's all right, mostly. He's in hospital now, and they want to operate. Apparently there's a very high chance of recovery once he's had the operation. Well, that's great, I say, attempting to put on a positive front. If they're confident. I'm just so scared, Jamie, Mom admits, her voice catching. I know, Mom. But these doctors are experts. They know what they're doing, I assure her. I can visualize her nodding her acceptance of my point. You're right. Shay and I are going to jump on a flight to London, I tell her. We'll be there as soon as we can. I spoke without thinking, without even checking to see if Shay is okay with this plan. I panic for the briefest of moments, but when I catch his eye, all I see is support. He nods and gives my shoulder a gentle squeeze. Of course, he murmurs. Stepping away from me, he tugs his phone out of his pocket and starts scrolling through it. Jamie, you don't have to. Shay's looking up flights now, I say, cutting her off. This one leaves in about 4 hours, Shay says, holding up his phone. JFK to Heathrow direct. I nod. Book it. I do a quick calculation of the flight time and time difference before telling my mom. Okay, we should be there early tomorrow morning, your time. Okay, love. I'll see you then. Keep me updated about the operation, I tell her. Use WhatsApp so I can check it during the flight. She lets out a soft chuckle that makes my heart feel about 10 times lighter. All right. You boys have a safe trip. Thanks. Bye, Mum. It's a mad scramble to get some things packed and get ourselves to the airport in time to check in for our flight. Fortunately, Jake had already organized to stay at a school friend's place for a couple of nights this week, but Shay still has to call him to let him know what's going on and also put Finn on standby to stay with Jake in case this trip turns out to be longer than a couple of days. Once we're finally on the plane and I'm connected to the Wi-Fi, I feel myself breathing a little easier, knowing that we're headed in the right direction and that I'll hear of any updates. A couple of hours into the flight, I get a WhatsApp message from Mom telling me Granddad is about to go in for surgery. I let out a heavy breath as I finish reading the message, which details the kind of surgery he's having. He's about to go in for the operation. I feel Shay's large hand give mine a gentle squeeze, and I glance up to find him watching me, his eyes full of love, concern, and sympathy. A little overwhelmed, I lean over and bury my head in Shay's neck. His arms are quick to come up around me and pull me close. I keep thinking about all the times Mom told him off for his bad eating habits, I say into Shay's sweater. Maybe if he just listened. Shh. He's going to be fine, Shay says in a voice so reassuring it's impossible not to believe. And once he's through this, we can all gang up on him and make sure he's eating right. I chuckle. Guaranteed he'll still sneak in a bap whenever he gets a chance. By the time we land at Heathrow, make our way through border control, collect our bags, and then take the tube to Mum and Granddad's place in northwest London, I've received another message telling me Granddad's out of surgery and that the doctors are pleased with how it went. I give Mum a ring to let her know we've arrived, and then Shay and I head for the hospital. When we get there, Mom draws both of us into fierce hugs. Thank you so much for coming. I appreciate it so much. She dabs at her eyes with the heel of her hand. You boys must be exhausted, though. I could definitely use some coffee, Shay says. Anyone else? I smile up at him. Tea, please. My mom nods. I'll have tea as well. Shay scrubs a hand through his grey-flecked dark hair. Right, I'm in England. Am I even going to be able to get coffee anywhere? I roll my eyes. He makes that lame joke every time he comes here. Maybe try the Starbucks across the street? I'm pretty sure they make coffee there. Shay lets out a soft chuckle, then drops a soft kiss to my hair before turning and walking toward the elevator, presumably on his way to Starbucks. So, what wedding plans have you made? Mom asks after Shay leaves. Do you know where it's going to be? Oh, and show me this ring. She grabs my hand and brings it up to her face to inspect my engagement ring, gushing over how beautiful it is. My brow draws together in concern. Are you sure you want to talk about this, Mom? What about Grandad? Mom sighs. Jamie, it's been a horrid couple of days, and I've been talking and thinking about your Granddad non-stop. Now you're here, and I want to talk about some good news for a change. With an obliging smile, I guide Mom over to a couple of free chairs in the waiting area so we can sit down, and I can tell her all about the proposal, my ideas for the wedding, and our complete lack of any plans. Chapter 18. Declan. Babe, I really don't think this is a good idea. We have so much going on right now. Heath's grip on my hand tightens as he tugs me toward the steps that lead up to the brownstone's entrance. You promised you'd at least look. I sigh. I had agreed to that, but to be fair, he'd been lazily stroking my cock at the time and wouldn't give me the attention I really needed until I did. The realtor meets us just inside the door and takes us through the house, with Heath gushing over every feature. I have to admit, it's a beautiful house, and when my eyes land on the small backyard, I can't help picturing our future child running around out there, chasing after Bucky, playing in the snow in winter. There's even room for a swing set, and maybe a small grill. The house is plenty big enough, with good-sized bedrooms and 2 living areas. Even if we decided to have another kid down the road, we'd fit here comfortably. And it's a nice neighborhood, close to my clinic. But even so, We have a baby coming any day now, and we're going to be so busy in the months to come. As beautiful as this place is, there are parts of it that will need some work before it's ready to be lived in. How will we possibly handle all of that with a baby and both of us juggling work? We end the tour back in the kitchen, the realtor smiling expectantly. I still don't know, I say. She purses her lips, lifting her wrist to check the time. I really don't want to rush you, but I have another appointment to get to. I think my husband just needs a little more time here, Heath says. Is there any way we could stay for a bit? The realtor eyes us up and down, scrutinizing every detail before finally relenting. I'll be back in half an hour to lock the house up. Thank you so much, Wendy, Heath says, offering that charming smile that's been winning women over for years. Wendy blushes and gives a small nod before turning and heading for the front door, her heels clacking against the hardwood floor. Seriously, with the flirting? I ask Heath once I hear the door close behind her. His brows shoot up. That was not flirting, and she's like my mom's age. Taking my hand, he starts leading me through the house again. Can't you just imagine it? Kids playing in the backyard, bursting through the front door after school and racing to the kitchen for a snack. And these stairs? He drags me over to the stairs that seem to go on forever. Come on. How perfect are they for surfing down? Okay, the prospect of our kids breaking their necks by surfing down the stairs isn't really the best way to win me over, baby. They'll wear helmets, he says, as if that's a perfectly legitimate argument. You can't do stair surfing without a helmet. It wouldn't be safe. I roll my eyes, then turn to gaze at him. You really love this house, don't you? He nods, his expression completely sincere as he says, I really do. I let out a soft groan. Stepping forward, I wrap my arms around his waist and drop my forehead to rest against his. I promised on our wedding day I'd spend every day of my life making him as happy as he makes me. So if this will make him happy, I draw in a deep breath. I guess we're buying a house. His lips spread into a broad grin before he seals them against mine, his arms coming up to link around my neck and hold me against him. I groan into his mouth as the kiss deepens, and before I know it, we're writhing against each other, the movement of our bodies so familiar after so long together. I hastily scramble at the front of Heath's jeans, unfastening them and pulling out his hardening cock, loving the way it grows thicker at my touch. I stroke him leisurely as my mouth moves to his neck, placing hot kisses along his skin. Jesus, Dick, he murmurs, letting out a groan as I speed up my strokes. Fuck. Please, I need you. Those words are all it ever takes for me to give in. Letting go of his cock, I glance around at our surroundings before directing Heath toward the staircase. Here, brace yourself. Ass out, baby. He does as I instruct, bending over with his hands against one of the steps, his ass in the air directly in front of me. I come up behind him and shove his jeans down around his thighs, revealing the creamy white skin of his gorgeous ass. Digging in my back pocket, I pull out my wallet and retrieve a single-use package of lube. Then I unfasten my jeans and get my hard, pulsing cock out. Knowing that Heath loves to feel the burn, I don't bother with much prep. I quickly apply some of the lube to his hole before slicking up my cock and moving closer behind him, pushing inside in one smooth stroke. He lets out a stream of panted curses as I pierce his outer ring, but they ultimately transform into groans of pleasure as I fill him completely and he adjusts to the sensation. Fuck yes, he growls. Oh, God, Deck. Fuck me, baby. Heedless of the fact that this is technically still someone else's house and that the realtor could walk back in at any moment and find us fucking right here on the stairs, I give Heath exactly what he wants, snapping my hips in hard, frenzied movements. I dig my fingers into his hips as I drive deep inside him over and over. The strangled groan of pleasure Heath lets out as I hit his prostate is the most perfect sound in the world. Hearing it never gets old. Neither does the knowledge of just how much I fucking love this man. Oh, fuck, Deck. I'm gonna come, he groans. Come, baby. I'm so fucking close as well. An instant later, Heath hurtles over the edge, his body seizing up as he reaches his orgasm. And feeling that sensation acts like a trigger for me. I follow immediately after, coming hard into Heath's ass. I pull out of him and put my cock away, but as Heath stands and does the same, I notice we have a little problem. The wet spot on the stairs. I let out a soft chuckle. Whoops. We should probably clean that up before Wendy gets back, or we'll be out of the running for the house. So, has he taken any steps since then? I discreetly ask Josh as we both watch Connor regale yet another group of people with the now infamous tale of Chase's first step. Josh lets out a soft breath of laughter, his eyes full of affection as they fixate on my brother. Not unless he's been secretly doing it while none of us were watching, which, of course, Connor hasn't ruled out. Of course, I chuckle, nodding in agreement. Although with 3 parents, I can't imagine Chase getting much alone time to enact this covert walking operation. Liam and Melinda approach us from across the room, with Liam brandishing fresh beers for Josh and me. God, I really love this house, Liam says. Blake has a whole fridge just for alcohol. We really need one of those, Melinda says, taking a generous swig of her wine. We're at Blake and Owen's because it's New Year's Eve, and their Greenwich Village brownstone is pretty much the ultimate party house. It's by no means a rager, but everyone seems to have managed to get sitters for their kids, so there's a pretty decent turnout amongst my siblings and their partners. Perhaps not so conspicuously absent is Owen, who I'm pretty sure scheduled a shift tonight just to avoid the party. He may have come out of his shell a lot since he and Blake got together, but some things just don't change. Shay and Jamie aren't here either, having rushed over to England for a family emergency during the week. And Aiden and Ben decided to stay in Austin instead of flying out so soon after their last visit. But that still leaves the majority of my siblings, as well as several of Owen and Blake's friends, making the party reasonably crowded, if not totally off the wall. I decide to sit on my beer for a little while. This is my 3rd, and although I'm far from entering the drunk zone, I'm also keenly aware that we're only a week away from the due date, and Melissa could go into labor at any moment. I definitely don't want to be wasted when my baby's born. Have you told them yet? Heath asks, sidling up to me and resting his hand on the back of my neck. I offer him an affectionate smile. No, I was waiting for you. What's going on? Liam asks. Oh, did you have the baby? I roll my eyes. Yeah, we had the baby and then just left it at home for the night so we could come out drinking. We're buying a house, Heath announces brightly. Several pairs of wide eyes stare back at us. Now? Melinda asks. I sigh. Yeah, that was my feeling too, but eventually he won me over. Heath shrugs. We had sex on the stairs. We kinda had to buy it after that. Remind me to wear a hazmat suit whenever I visit your new house, Liam grumbles. I don't see why that would be necessary. You don't seem to have a problem with our current place, Heath reasons. And we have sex everywhere. I mean, there's probably cum on every surface you could think of. Chapter 19. Owen. Hey, Owen. I drawl up short as my boss Marie, the nursing supervisor here in the ED, calls out to me just before I'm about to leave for the night. It's been one hell of a shift. New Year's Eve in the ED is always crazy as hell, and very unusually for me, I'm actually looking forward to getting home to what I know will be a house full of my family and friends. I'm not a big party person, but if Blake and everyone else I love is there, it sounds perfect to me. Hey, what's up? Did you treat a boy named Ryder Bellamy a couple weeks ago? My brows shoot up. He came in a few days before Christmas. Why? Her lips purse in a tight frown. He was back again tonight. An inexplicable wave of panic rushes through me. I don't understand it. I barely even know Ryder, but I feel a visceral need to know he's okay. What happened? Is he all right? Was it another seizure? One of Marie's perfectly sculpted brows arches up, but she doesn't comment on my desperate demeanor. He's okay. And yes, it was another seizure. He's back up in pediatric neurology now. She draws in a deep breath and then lets it out. But that's not why I stopped you from leaving. Holly Vale wants to talk to you. It seems Ryder's foster mother has left him here. My mouth parts in surprise, and I just stare at Marie for a moment. Holly Vale is one of the hospital's on-call social workers. Left? As in, she abandoned him? Marie frowns, her head nodding sadly. It seems that way. Yeah. Where's Holly? Up in pediatrics, with Ryder. I give Marie a nod of thanks and turn on my heel back toward the elevators. As I make my way up to pediatrics, I figure I should probably give Blake a call to let him know what's going on. Hey, I'm not going to get home for the party tonight. Blake lets out an affectionate chuckle. Why doesn't that surprise me? No, that's not... I sigh. Believe it or not, I actually wanted to be there this year. Oh, what's going on? Is something wrong? His voice is full of concern, and it makes my heart just melt. I hate that he's worried, but I love how much he cares. Not exactly. Sorry, I know you have a house full of guests, but is there any way you can get to the hospital? I ask. I'll be in the pediatric ward. The pediatric ward? I nod, although I know he can't see me. Yeah. Blake sighs. Okay, I'm on my way. Wait, Blake? What is it, sweetheart? I draw in a deep breath, knowing I'm pretty much asking him to do the impossible. Can you bring Elmo? Elmo? Yeah. Like, not the actual Muppet, but a toy. Or something with Elmo on it. He pauses for a long moment before finally saying, I'll see what I can do. We end the call and I release a heavy breath, letting my head fall back against the wall of the elevator. The odds of Blake being able to find something Elmo at 11 p.m. on New Year's Eve is next to impossible, but I know if anyone can, it's him. Ryder's room is easy to find once I step off the elevator onto the pediatrics ward. As it happens, it's the same room he was in when I came to visit a couple days before Christmas. I know they'd been running tests at that time, ECGs and MRIs to check his brain activity, but they hadn't made a conclusive diagnosis at that point. With how busy everything has been since then, I've forgotten to follow up. Holly greets me with a kind smile when I meet her in Ryder's room. The boy himself is fast asleep. Evidently, they required the use of Valium to bring him out of the seizure this time, and that stuff can really knock you down. Do you know what happened? I ask Holly after she ushers me out into the hall. Marie didn't give details. I just know that he came in seizing. Andrea Lawson and Dev Gavaskar were the nurses treating him. Andrea was with me last time. Holly nods. Yes, she said as much. That's why I asked to see you. At Holly's request, I give a brief recount of what happened the night Ryder was brought in just before Christmas. I keep it straightforward and unbiased, especially when it comes to answering Holly's questions about Ryder's former foster mother. I know Holly's just doing her job. This woman has abandoned a child, and now social services needs to gather as much information as possible to determine whether she can still provide a safe environment for her other children. But I don't like the thought that something I could say be a determining factor in that decision. So, what happens now? I ask, my eyes veering toward the open doorway of Ryder's room. Holly glances back for a moment before returning her attention to me, her eyes full of compassion. It's going to be tough. According to his records, he's an orphan, and there's no mention of any extended family who can take him in. I imagine that's how he ended up in care in the first place. He'll need to stay here for treatment for at least the next few days, and he'll have a social worker assigned as his temporary guardian. But if there's no family member that can be located quickly, he'll go back into the system. The thought of Ryder going back into foster care makes my gut twist. I know there are some amazing foster parents out there, but there are also some not so great ones. And there are also many who are just doing their best with the limited support. And for a kid like Ryder, it's hard to see how that could be enough. What if someone decides it's too much of a hassle to get his medication, so they just stop giving it to him? What if someone decides his doctor's appointments are too expensive? What if someone leaves him alone for too long and he has a seizure and hurts himself? I'm about to mention all my concerns to Holly when I see a familiar figure walking through the ward. Already my heart feels lighter just having Blake nearby. As he approaches, I notice he's holding a box in his hand. My mouth falls open in shock. "You actually got an Elmo?" He grins. "I put the word out on social media. There was a couple in the village whose daughter got 2 for Christmas, so they were happy for me to take this off their hands." Oh my God, this is amazing! Despite everything, I can't help grinning as I gaze at the Elmo stuffy. Ryder will love it. "I'm guessing this is for Ryder?" Blake asks, one eyebrow raised. I nod and explain the situation, introducing him to Holly as I do so. "I'm going to check on Ryder," Holly says with a kind smile. "I can take that into him if you'd like." Blake nods and hands her the Elmo. Once she's disappeared into the room, he reaches out to stroke my cheek, his eyes full of concern. "You're really upset by this, aren't you?" I nod sadly. I know it happens. I mean, God, this isn't even the first time I've seen it happen. It's just, there's something about this kid, Blake. And I'm so scared he's going to get tossed back into the system and he won't get the proper support he needs. He deserves so much better than to be a burden on someone. He deserves a good life. A great life. Blake pulls me into his arms, holding me tight and pressing a kiss to the top of his head. "Okay," he says simply. "Okay what?" He draws back from me a little, his hands coming up to cup my face. "Okay, we'll foster him." My mouth falls open. "But we'll speak to whoever we need to speak to. We'll do whatever training we need to do. We'll get whatever qualification we need to get. And he'll come home with us, and we'll take care of him." Chapter 20. Ben. Feeling Aiden shift in my arms, I crack my eyes open to find him gazing at me, that familiar look of affection lighting his beautiful green eyes. "Morning," I murmur. The corner of his mouth quirks up. "Morning. Happy New Year." I grin and lean forward to brush my lips against his. "Happy New Year, babe." Are we really lame for not celebrating the New Year with people last night? I shake my head. No way. I prefer the way we celebrated. Grabbing his waist, I roll us over so I'm molded on top of him, my lips finding his again as I start to move my hips. "Wait," he gasps, tearing his mouth away. I stop moving. "Yeah?" "I just really need to pee. Like my bladder is ready to burst." With a chuckle, I roll off him and prop myself up on my elbows, my eyes glued to his naked ass as he rushes to the bathroom. A slow grin forms across my face as I catch sight of the red mark spread over one of his cheeks, and I'm hit with an onslaught of memories from last night. Rather than waiting for Aiden to return to the bed, I get up and stalk over to the ensuite. "Why are you up?" he asks, shaking off his dick and flushing the toilet. "I was just about to come back." I offer a teasing smile. I had a better idea. I reach into the shower and turn it on, waiting a few moments for the water to heat up before stepping under the spray. Getting with the plan quickly, Aiden joins me in the shower, linking his arms around my neck and dragging my head down to claim my lips as the water sluices around us. I groan against his lips, my hands finding his ass and pulling him closer to me. Fucking love the ass, I tell him, giving it a squeeze. He chuckles. So you've said. Many times. Well, it needs to be said. I kiss him again, delving my tongue farther into his mouth and eliciting a harsh groan from deep in his throat. Christ, I love kissing this man, and holding him in my arms, and feeling his beautiful body against mine. I manage to tear my lips away and reach for the mint-scented body scrub that Aiden likes because he thinks it makes his skin feel fresh, and that I love because it makes him smell amazing. He still has some cum on his stomach from last night, so I lather up my hands and move them over his body, cleaning him up. Once I'm sure his stomach is cum-free, I turn him around and focus my attention on his ass, which is also still a little messy. Clearly, we need to be doing better with our post-sex cleanup. Soft noises of appreciation drop from his lips as I massage his ass, the sounds making me rock hard and absolutely desperate for some more intimate contact. Once the soap's all washed away, I step a little closer behind Aiden, bending my head to trail hot kisses over his neck as I push 2 wet fingers inside him. Oh, shit. Aiden's low murmurs of pleasure turn into outright groans as I start finger-fucking him, my other arm coming up to wrap around his chest, holding him in place against me. Jesus, Ben. Fuck. I let out a soft groan as he pushes his ass back against my hand, the movement lining my cock up against his hip. He tilts his head back and I slam my lips against his, swallowing his needy groans as I continue to finger him, making sure to hit that perfect spot that makes him buck and tremble in my arms. Fuck, Ben. Aiden gasps, and I feel his body seizing up, his ass clamping tight around my fingers as he climaxes, painting the shower screen with his cum. I pull my hand away and hold him tight in both arms, giving him a moment to recover, but then he pries my grip loose and turns around, dropping to his knees in front of me. Before I can comment, he has his hot, wet mouth wrapped around my throbbing dick. I reach out and grab at his wet hair, holding him in place as I thrust my hips forward, fucking his throat. He groans around my cock, his gorgeous eyes lit with heat and desire. He lifts one hand to gently tug my balls, and that's all it takes for the orgasm to rip through me. Fuck. Coming, I growl, pulling back a little so that Aiden doesn't choke on my cum. Not that he's entirely averse to that kind of play, but it's not how I want to start the morning. Once he's swallowed every drop, Aiden gets back to his feet and I pull him into my arms, sealing my mouth to his. You know what I just realized? I murmur against his lips. What? We're getting married this year. Aiden grins, drawing his arms up to link around my neck. Hell yeah. Can't fucking wait to marry you. We stay under the shower spray for a while longer, just holding each other and making out, and using some more of that soap to clean each other up. But then we eventually turn the water off and towel ourselves dry. Leaving the bathroom, I disappear into our walk-in closet, tugging on some sweatpants and a hoodie and grabbing some clothes for Aiden, who's still out in the bedroom. Oh my God! What? What is it? I ask, rushing back into the bedroom, concerned by how freaked out Aiden just sounded. I find him standing just near the nightstand, naked except for the towel wrapped around his waist, and staring at his phone with a horrified expression on his face. Is something wrong? Is it your family? Mutely, he shakes his head and hands me the phone. I'm really worried now. Aiden's rarely lost for words, but right now he looks like he can barely think, let alone talk. He's clearly agitated, and all I want is to make whatever it is that's upset him go away. Glancing at the phone screen, I see it's a news article, and as I read the heading, the bottom drops out of my stomach. It reads, Ellie Fox's sex tape hack. Ellie Fox, former co-host of the Discovery Channel's Extreme Trekkers and executive producer and co-host of Netflix's much-anticipated Queer America, has been caught on camera engaging in explicit sex acts. Fox recently came out as transgender, earning much sympathy and support after speaking out about the discrimination she was subjected to from the Extreme Trekkers production team and her former agent. Her co-star, Aidan Kelly, who also recently came out as pansexual, has been one of Fox's most vocal supporters. However, this latest incident could be a setback for the pair and for their new show, which had been gaining momentum in the lead-up to its launch early this year. Unable to read anymore, I glance up at Aidan, who looks worryingly pale. What the hell? He shakes his head slowly, as if coming out of a fog. I need to call Ellie. She might not have seen this yet. I need to warn her. I hand Aidan his phone back so he can call Ellie, but before he can bring up her contact, the phone starts buzzing with an incoming call. Ellie. Aidan answers and puts her on speaker. Did you see? She asks in a quiet voice I've never heard her use before. Aidan sighs. His expression looks completely broken. Yeah, honey, I saw. Aidan, I'm so sorry. I don't know how this happened, she sobs. I guess someone hacked our Zoom hookup. Hey, listen to me. You don't need to be sorry, okay? This isn't your fault, Elle. Some asshole did this to you. As bad as the situation is, I'm relieved to see Aidan no longer looks as though he's about to throw up. It seems the protectiveness he feels toward Ellie has worked to clear his head somewhat. Hey, Ellie, it's Ben, I say into the phone. Not to be a downer, but the person you were with on Zoom, any chance... People, she clarifies, cutting me off. And no, of course it wasn't them. She lets out a groan of realization before she says, Oh my God, Finn and Cass. Aidan, they're teachers. They could get fired for this. It won't come to that, Aidan reassures her. I'm going to call Cole McGaffrey. The guy who helped us get out of our contracts? Ellie asks. Yeah, he deals with this kind of thing all the time. It'll be okay, honey. And I'll make sure Finn and Cass's names stay out of it. Okay, thank you, she says, sounding a lot more like herself. They end the call and Aidan turns to me with a quizzical expression. Who is Cass? I shrug, offering a wry grin, and here I thought Ellie told you everything. He shakes his head, clearly bewildered. I thought she and Finn were still having their standoff, so obviously I don't know everything. Chapter 21. Shay. How's Jamie's granddad? Jake asks over FaceTime when I call to check in. A lot better, I say with a smile. He's coming home tomorrow, but it was a major surgery, so he's got a long recovery ahead of him, and he has to completely change his diet, which he's not remotely thrilled about. Jake nods. And how long do you think you guys will be over there for? I cringe. We're thinking at least another week. Jamie wants to help Edward get settled in at home and make sure his mom's got a good routine going before we leave so Sarah and Edward don't kill each other. I know Finn has to go back to school, so I'm going to call Mom to see if she can come stay with you for a few days. Jake groans, his whole face screwing up in agitation. The exact reaction I was expecting. Seriously? Come on, Shay, I'm 17. I don't need a babysitter. Well, all the legal shit I signed says otherwise. God, it's going to be so much easier once Jake turns 18 and we don't have to worry about these kinds of logistics. It's not that I don't trust him in the apartment or think he's not capable of taking care of himself. It's just that if I were to leave him alone with no adult present overnight and something did go wrong, I could potentially lose guardianship, and that's the last thing any of us want. But your mom? Jake groans. I mean, she's a really nice lady, but she's always fussing over me and forcing me to eat. Yes, that is a nightmare, I deadpan. But I can kind of understand what he means. He's a teenager. He wants his space. Unfortunately for Jake, my mom isn't really one for boundaries. One time, after she discovered a dirty magazine under Liam's bed, she had Da remove the door from our bedroom. I'm not sure what she thought that would accomplish. If she was trying to force us not to jerk off, she was incredibly unsuccessful. Are you sure I can't just come meet up with you in London? Jake asks, his face lit up with hope. I chuckle. Nice try. You're back at school next week, so no. Jake lets out a dispirited sigh. Fine. Out the bus window, I catch sight of the post office that sits at the end of Jamie's street. I need to go, I tell Jake. I'm at my stop. I end the call and stand up. I collect my grocery bags from the empty seat next to me and move to the front of the bus, stepping off as it pulls up by the post office. Jamie's mom and granddad live just off a bustling high street, and evidently they're friendly with the owners and workers at pretty much every single business on the street. I've lost count of the amount of times Jamie's been asked questions regarding how his granddad is doing, or how his mother is holding up, or how things are going for him in the States, or how his American boyfriend is doing, usually while I'm right there. I guess it shouldn't be too surprising, considering Edward's lived in this neighborhood his entire life and worked on the high street as the local butcher until he retired only about 5 years ago. But for a native New Yorker, I have to admit all this familiarity is a little disarming. When I get inside the house, I once again find Jamie cleaning the kitchen. Considering it's usually me or Jake who clean up after him at our place, I'm not sure whether to be pleased or concerned about this new habit. Okay. I dump the grocery bags on the counter and slip off my coat, tossing it onto the back of a nearby chair. I've got all the stuff on the suggested dietary list. Lean meat, egg whites, lots of leafy greens, and Blake sent me an email with a bunch of recipes he swears are both healthy and delicious. Jamie grins at me. Yeah, he sent me the same email. That's going to be the trick, convincing Granddad that not everything that's good for you tastes horrid. He shakes his head wryly. He's like a toddler sometimes when it comes to food. He'll like something until he finds out it's healthy, and then all of a sudden it tastes like rubbish. I chuckle. Right. So we're going to convince him that despite having heart surgery, we're still going to let him eat junk. Meanwhile, we'll secretly be feeding him healthy food. Yup, sounds like a plan. Jamie deadpans. So, have you lads been thinking about when you'd like to get married? Edward asks, as he picks at his dinner the following night. Judging by the look of dissatisfaction that crosses his face as he pokes his fork around at the baked salmon and green beans on his plate, our plan to win him over to heart-healthy eating hasn't been successful so far. We haven't really, actually, I say, cutting Jamie off and offering him a soft smile. I've been thinking maybe we should do it here. Summer next year? Jamie beams and leans over to kiss me on the cheek. I love it. Summer next year? Edward asks, his bushy gray brows up near his hairline. I could be dead by then. Not if you eat what we tell you to and don't sneak chips and sandwiches all the bloody time, Sarah growls. Chapter 22. Owen. It takes a moment after waking for me to realize I'm not in our New York townhouse, but rather at the Hamptons place. That explains the sound of the wind rattling the plantation shutters at the bedroom window. Blake and I came over here after my shift last night because we need to get the place ready for the social services inspection tomorrow. If we do manage to become Ryder's foster parents, he'll be visiting this house a lot, so of course they need to make sure it's safe. I can't believe how close we are to making this a reality. The past week has been a complete blur of social services interviews, home visits, and the mandatory classes Blake and I needed to attend to become certified as foster parents. Normally, we take those classes over a much longer period, but because Ryder's health condition makes him a special case, we were able to fast-track everything. Tomorrow is the last step. Once the social worker verifies our second home is a safe environment, everything should be in order for Ryder to come home with us. And then, hopefully, one day, we can officially adopt him. The space in the bed beside me is empty, which isn't all that unusual considering Blake tends to be an early riser. After a few more minutes of snuggling under the warm covers, I manage to drag myself out of bed. I stuff my feet into a pair of Uggs and throw on one of Blake's massive sweaters before wandering off to locate my husband. I find him out on the deck, crouched on all fours and surrounded by a bunch of tools and lengths of plywood. "What the hell are you doing?" I demand. "It's freezing out here." At the sound of my voice, Blake gets to his feet and comes toward me, a soft smile on his lips. "Morning?" He leans down to kiss my cheek, and I immediately smell the ocean on him. He must have been for a surf earlier. Because, of course, surfing in January is exactly the kind of thing my husband would do. "Well?" I ask, canting my head toward the tools sitting on the deck. "I'm making a gate for the deck," he explains. "We'd need it anyway, what with Dylan walking now and Chase not far away. I know Bax and Wyatt can get themselves down the stairs okay and are old enough to know they need an adult around if they want to go in the water, but I'd still rather not risk it." He shrugs. "I was going to wait until it got closer to summer, but that's not an option anymore." I offer a broad grin and lift my arms to wrap around his neck. "That's so sweet of you. I had no idea you were so crafty." "Come on. You know I'm good with my hands." He flashes me a teasing grin before cutting off my chuckle with a deep kiss. "Do you need help?" I ask as we break apart. "Getting off? Always." I lower my hands and step back a little, playfully hitting his bicep. "With the gate." He smiles. "I've got it. Why don't you have some breakfast, and then you can do your check of the rest of the house." The check of the rest of the house consists of making sure this is as safe, comfortable, and positive an environment as any social worker could possibly want for a child. We went through the exact same process earlier in the week with our brownstone, and honestly, I think it's a miracle we managed to pass. I never considered how not kid-friendly a house with about 6 flights of stairs and an elevator is before now. The stairs were reasonably simple. We just added gates on every single level. The elevator, though? That was trickier. Fortunately, Blake's a genius and managed to come up with a cover for the call button so that only someone with longer adult fingers can reach it. It wouldn't hold up if Ryder got clever and used a pencil or something, but it seemed to impress the social worker, and she passed us for the home visit. Now we just need to pass this last test. I lock away all our alcohol in a high cabinet, test all the smoke alarms, and check that the fire extinguisher in the kitchen doesn't need replacing. I also child-proof with gates for the stairs and latches for the kitchen drawers and cupboards that contain knives and other potentially dangerous items. And I put some little rubber stoppers on the edges of the coffee table, just in case Ryder were to have a seizure and hit his head. This would at least cushion the impact a little. Once I'm done with the childproofing, I head into the pantry and retrieve the bags of groceries we brought with us yesterday. I dig out the stuff we bought for our home first aid kit, still completely appalled that this has been my second home for over a year and I've only just now realized we don't have one. Some nurse I am. As well as all the usual first aid supplies, we also bought children's Tylenol, Spider-Man Band-Aids, a children's thermometer, and kids' sunscreen. I put everything in a plastic box and then store that up in a high cabinet in the kitchen, well out of any child's reach. I then unpack the groceries into the fridge, all the best stuff from the bottom of the food pyramid. Thanks to Blake, we're pretty good eaters in this house anyway, but we're making the extra effort to buy kids snacks that are organic and healthy and won't lead to Ryder's teeth falling out. Except the ones that have to, obviously. By the time I'm done with all this, Blake has finished the gate, and he helps me set up Ryder's room, which is right next to ours on the ground floor. We didn't have time to get a kid's bed, so we've decided that here in the Hamptons he can make do, as Blake puts it, with a queen. We've got him a new Sesame Street comforter set, though, and we filled his closet with a whole bunch of new clothes, much of them red, or at least partly red, just like we did in the city. God, I really hope we pass, I say with a sigh as I stand in the doorway looking at Ryder's room. Blake comes up behind me, wrapping his strong arms around me. We need to be patient, sweetheart. If we don't pass tomorrow, we'll just take whatever notes Abigail gives us and try again. And then again. Until, eventually, we do pass. The next day, Abigail, the social worker in charge of Ryder's case, comes by for the inspection, and I'm ecstatic to see she has Ryder with her. She explains to us she wouldn't normally bring a child on a home visit, but as Ryder's been in her care since his release from hospital, there wasn't really much choice. "Owen!" Ryder calls, his face breaking into a wide grin. I step forward and crouch down in front of him, smiling at the sight of the Elmo stuffy clutched tight in his arm. "Hey, buddy. How are you feeling?" "I'm okay. The hospital looked after me." I smile. I'm glad to hear it. "Ryder, maybe you'd like to stay with Owen while Blake shows me around?" Abigail suggests. I imagine Ryder and I are probably wearing matching expressions right now as we look up at Abigail, wide, hopeful eyes. Abigail offers a wry smile. "It's fine." I take Ryder's hand and lead him toward the living room. "Do you like coloring, Ryder? We have some crayons over here." He nods enthusiastically, and I retrieve the crayons and a coloring book from the shelf where I stashed them yesterday. I set them out on the coffee table and watch with affection as Ryder finally sets down Elmo and dives on the crayons. A little while later, Abigail and Blake return, calling me over from where I'm coloring with Ryder. "I've seen everything I need to see," Abigail says, "and I think you two can provide a wonderful home for Ryder." I let out a little squeal of excitement, throwing myself into Blake's arms. "Oh my God, it's actually happening! He's coming to live with us! We get to take care of him!" "I know," Blake murmurs, gently stroking my arm. "I know." "There are some forms I need you to sign," Abigail says, cutting into our emotional display. "And I'll need to talk you through his medication. It's probably a good idea to check in with his specialist when you're back in the city so he can give you a thorough breakdown of everything that's involved with Ryder's condition." She draws in a breath, her eyes landing on Ryder, who's still happily coloring. "But if you're okay with it, I can leave him with you now. You've passed all the checks." Blake and I both nod enthusiastically. "We can take him now," I say. "We have everything he needs here." "I know," Amelia says with a soft smile. "I saw." Chapter 23. Heath. It's the 10th of January, 2 days after the due date, when I hear "baby" blaring from my phone. It's just after 11, and I'm in the middle of brushing my teeth before heading to bed, so I race out of the bathroom and stumble over the couch, lucky not to stab myself in the eye with my toothbrush as I trip and land on the floor. Glancing up, I see Deck has already answered my phone and is wearing a wide-eyed expression. "Okay, we're on our way." He ends the call and turns to me, still looking completely freaked out. "The baby's coming." "Like right now?" I say through a mouthful of toothpaste. "I'm in my pajamas." Finally looking a little more relaxed, Deck chuckles. "I think you'll have time to change. And spit. She said her water hasn't even broken yet." I drag myself up and rush back into the bathroom, spitting and rinsing before wiping my face on a towel. "How does she know she's in labor if her water didn't break?" Declan shrugs. "I don't know. I guess pregnant women know that kind of thing." "Maybe it's a false alarm?" "Maybe. But we should get to the hospital anyway. Melissa says her mom's with her, but we need to be there if things progress." It's not a false alarm. It's the real deal. And it's taking fucking forever. After waiting at the hospital for about 18 hours, surviving mainly on coffee and vending machine snacks, we finally get to move into the delivery room for the big event. "Okay, baby's coming. I need a big push, Melissa," the doctor says. "Oh my God. I can't believe you ever found vaginas attractive," Declan exclaims, his mouth gaping open in horror as our baby starts to emerge. "Well, it's not like the girls I was with all had babies coming out of them," I cry back as my stomach turns over at what is definitely a pretty terrifying sight. And yeah, if I didn't already prefer dick these days, I have a feeling this would be enough to do it. I'm not sure I'll even be able to enjoy seeing vaginas in porn anymore. "God, this is so much more disgusting than birthing a calf," Deck mutters. "Thanks, guys, you're being so helpful," Melissa says with a groan. "Okay, Melissa, baby's being a little naughty. Trying to come out shoulder first, the doctor says, reaching for one of his instruments from a nearby tray. My eyes flash toward the doctor. What does that mean? Are they okay? Are they stuck in there? The doctor smiles kindly at me. It's fine. We're just going to do an episiotomy to give the baby a little more room. And if the baby's still not budging after that, we'll use the vacuum. The what? Deck asks. It's when they use suction to get the baby out, Melissa's mom, who's acting as her coach, explains, although that doesn't really help clarify things all that much, to be honest. Watching the doctor, I see him move his blade toward Melissa. Wait, is he going to... Oh my God. And then everything goes black. I'm not sure how long I'm out for, but when I wake up, Deck is hovering over me and grinning from ear to ear. Would you like to meet your son, babe? My eyes widen. It's a boy? Is he okay? Is Melissa okay? Did she bleed out? I saw the doctor cut her... Declan chuckles. She's fine. She said she barely even felt it. He grabs hold of my arm and helps me to my feet. Gee, she's brave. I shake myself off and lift a hand to give my head a rub. I don't think I hit anything hard enough to get a concussion, but I still have a bit of a bump. If someone sliced into my dick like that, I think I'd feel it. Maybe not if you were already busy pushing a baby out of your dick. I wince at the terrifying thought. Oh, God. I can't believe she volunteered to do that. Declan takes my hand and leads me over to where one of the nurses is busy wrapping up our newborn son. She picks him up and holds him out to us. At Declan's gesture, she places him in my arms, and from the first moment I hold him, I swear my heart's never been so full. We still need a name, I murmur, smiling down at the perfect little face of my son. Actually, I've been thinking about that. And about what your mom said? About naming him after your dad? My eyes flash up to meet Declan's. Deck, we are not naming our son Donald. He shakes his head. No, that's not what I meant. I was actually thinking we could call him Kaplan. He offers me a soft smile before transferring his affectionate gaze to our son. Just because you gave up that name when we married doesn't mean you can't still pass it on. Kaplan, I murmur. I like it. Even if it is kind of a young adult fiction name. The next day, we're able to bring little Kaplan home to our apartment, where he has a very successful first meeting with Bucky. Declan and I took it in turns last night and this morning to come by to feed and walk Bucky, and to let him sniff some of Cap's things. Yes, including a dirty diaper, so he'd already be used to the scent before we brought the baby home. We'd been a little concerned over the past few months about whether Bucky might not like having another creature in the house, who takes up so much of our attention when he's used to having it all lavished on him, but so far, and admittedly it's only been a few hours, he's been a champ. This evening we have a Zoom catch-up scheduled with Declan's entire family, but before then, we want to give Kaplan a bath, because he still has bits of gunk on him, and no one wants to see that. We decide to use the kitchen because there's more space in here than in our tiny bathroom. While Declan takes his time choosing the outfit Kaplan's going to wear for his first time meeting all the Kellys, I set out a clean towel on the counter, along with some baby washcloths and another smaller towel for drying him. Then I fill a bowl with lukewarm water and set it on the counter next to everything else. Finally, Declan enters the kitchen with the onesie he selected and a fresh diaper. And, of course, the baby. Declan's brows shoot up as he sets eyes on my sponge bath setup. Wow, do you think that bowl's big enough? He's still got bits of gunk on him. We need to do a thorough job. Deck just shakes his head with amusement. Okay. He brings Kaplan over and sets him gently on the towel I've laid out on the counter. He's awake, but not fussing, and fortunately that doesn't change when we strip him out of the little gray onesie he's wearing. I guess we'll just have to see how he reacts once we put water on his skin. Jesus, that thing's disgusting, I say, screwing up my face at Cap's umbilical cord stump. It looks like a shit coming out of his stomach. When was the last time you did a shit that looked like that? I shrug. I don't know. I can't exactly see my own shits as they come out. Deck lets out a breath of laughter. Can we please stop talking about shit and just clean the kid? Everyone will be waiting for us. I grin and pick up one of the little washcloths, dipping it into the bowl of water, right at the exact time that Bucky decides to come up behind me and headbutt me in the ass. I end up flipping the bowl over and dousing myself and my immediate surroundings in water, although thanks to Declan's lightning-quick reflexes, the baby is spared. Meanwhile, the bowl goes flying and somehow lands on Bucky's head, prompting the silly mutt to start crashing into the kitchen cupboards in an effort to dislodge it. I roll my eyes and remove the bowl, earning a grateful lick from Bucky. Seriously, dude, you could have just lowered your head and it would have come off. Turning back around, I see Deck with Kaplan in his arms, his expression wide-eyed. I hold up my hands. Don't say it. Smaller bowl next time. Chapter 24. Brendan. When I get home after work, I'm immediately hit with the smell of something delicious coming from the kitchen, and for a moment, I'm worried I've accidentally walked into the wrong house. But as I make my way down the hallway, I can see that, despite the unfamiliar scents and sounds, this is most definitely our home. There are Baxter's PJ Masks pajamas that have been left by the door of the bathroom. There's Arya's lovey that's been dropped halfway down the hallway. Even my own trainers are adding to the mess, still sitting by the door where I kicked them off after a brief run yesterday. Yep, this is definitely home. I bend to retrieve the lovey as I make my way down the hallway, setting it on the kitchen counter once I get there. Is this actually happening? I ask Wade as I move behind him and wrap my arms around his waist, pressing a kiss to his neck. Are you actually cooking dinner tonight? Yeah, I realized to the casual observer that question sounds a bit condescending, but that's really not what I'm going for here. Ordinarily, Wade enjoys cooking, and I like helping him out with chopping and dicing and whatever, but with a newborn and a 6-year-old taking up all our time and energy lately, we haven't exactly been putting much effort into our dinner routine. It's basically been takeout and frozen dinners my mom's been making for us. Wade grins. Uh-huh. Baxter's at your brother's place hanging out with Wyatt. And Ari? Asleep. I figured you'd be home by the time she needs anything. Good thinking. So what are we having? I still have my arms around him, and as I talk, I trail more kisses along his neck. Nothing fancy, he says with a soft rasp in his voice. Just bolognese. I love your bolognese. I especially love how it needs to simmer, I say, practically purring the last word as my hand moves south, palming the outside of his sweats over his rapidly hardening cock. Jesus, B. This is it. This is our moment. With one kid out and the other asleep, it's too good an opportunity to waste. What time did she go down? I murmur. Wade's eyes flick to the clock on the wall opposite the kitchen. About 20 minutes ago? So we have about 15 minutes minimum. An hour at the most. B, shh. I can do a lot in 15 minutes, Andy. He chuckles, tilting his head back to brush a kiss over my lips. You're such a romantic. Oh, just watch me, babe. I'm going to romance the fuck out of this ass. With my dick. I step back from him, giving said ass a playful slap before reaching up into the cupboard above the refrigerator to retrieve a bottle of lube that's been gathering dust. When I turn around, I see Wade is no longer at the stove and is instead braced against the kitchen counter, his sweats already pulled down around his thighs, revealing that incredible ass I can't wait to get inside of. With a grin, I step forward and brush my lips over his cheek. You are so fucking perfect. Have I told you that lately? Probably. But you're on the clock, B, so... Right. Less talking. I press one last quick kiss to his cheek before getting to work prepping his ass. I don't spend much time on it. As he said, we're on the clock, and after more than a year together, I know Wade doesn't mind being fucked with minimal prep. I pull my fingers out and quickly apply some lube to my cock before lining up with his hole and thrusting forward, piercing his ring. Jesus. Fuck, I say with a groan as I push farther inside. I wrap my arms tight around him and rest my head against his shoulder. The sensation of being inside him again after so long is almost too overwhelming to bear. Fuck me. Jesus, Wade groans. I can see his grip on the counter is white-knuckled, his whole body seeming to tremble as I start fucking him in hard, powerful strokes. I slide my hands under his sweater, over the heated skin of his chest. He groans again as I start tweaking his nipples, the sound going straight to my balls. Fuck, Andy, you feel so good, I tell him, barely able to get the words out through a breathless gasp. Missed this so fucking much. I wouldn't trade what we have for the world. The family Wade and I have built together is the most perfect thing I've ever done in my life, and I'll protect it until my dying breath. But being inside him like this just makes it abundantly clear how important it is for us to carve out time for ourselves as well. Wade and I go far deeper than our physical connection, but that doesn't mean that connection's not important. We need to be able to make love, even if it is just in stolen 15-minute blocks like this. As if reading my mind, Wade reaches his arm back to wrap around my neck and, tilting his head back, claims my lips in a fierce, passionate kiss. I love you so much, he murmurs. Love you too, Andy. So fucking much. I reach down to wrap my hand around his pulsing cock, stroking in a firm, fast rhythm that mimics the movement of my hips. Shit, B, you're gonna make me come, Wade groans, tossing his head back against my shoulder. I chuckle. Come then. I'm so fucking close, baby. I want us to come together. Fuck, he gasps out. I can feel my balls tightening, the heat rushing through me as my climax approaches. I let it go as I feel Wade's body tense up and we come together exactly like I wanted, him shooting straight into my hand and me filling his ass. I hold him against me for a moment before gently pulling out and moving to the sink to wash my hand off. Then I rifle through one of the kitchen drawers and pull out a pack of baby wipes so he can take care of the mess I made in his ass. Once we're cleaned up as best as we can get and both have our pants back on, I step toward Wade and loop my arms around his neck, brushing a kiss against his lips. We need to find more time for stuff like that, I tell him. I don't want to lose that part of our relationship. He offers me a gentle smile, his hand coming up to graze over my jaw. B, I promise you, we are never going to lose that part of our relationship. I could be on my deathbed, and I'd still want to be physical with you. That's really sweet, I tell him, but please never mention being on your deathbed again. Wade chuckles. Fine. Wrapping his arms around my waist, he pulls me closer to him and presses his lips to mine for a brief but heady kiss. My point is, we have nothing to worry about. It's just clear that for the foreseeable future, we'll have to make do with impromptu quickies like this, rather than anything planned. I let out a breath of laughter. Yeah, I think it's become pretty clear planning sex is just tempting fate. Fortunately, Baxter seems to have gotten over his giant fish freakout and is no longer sleeping in our bed every night, but it still feels as though there's always one thing or another that's constantly cropping up. Either that, or we're just too bone tired by the time we get to bed to do anything more than snuggle. Don't worry. Once things settle down a bit and we've got a good routine figured out, we'll do something special. Maybe your folks can stay with the kids, and we can spend the night in the city or something. I smile at him. That sounds nice. But for the record, I don't need anything special. I just need you. Chapter 25. Owen Forrester Kelly. Blake and I have some news. Brendan Kelly replied to Owen Forrester Kelly. OMG, you're engaged! Shay Kelly replied to Brendan Kelly. They're already married, loser. Brendan Kelly replied to Shay Kelly. Oh, right. Baby brain. And also, they didn't invite any of us to their wedding, so I'm not sure it really counts. Finn Kelly. Can't believe I'm saying this, but I kind of agree with Brendan here. None of us actually saw them get married, so how do we know it really happened? Alana Martin Kelly replied to Finn Kelly. Not everyone preserves their most private moments on video for the world to see, brother. Shay Kelly. Oh, she went there. Eileen Kelly replied to Shay Kelly. Who went where? Shay Kelly replied to Eileen Kelly. Never mind, Mom. You're better off being in the dark about this. Brendan Kelly replied to Eileen Kelly. She was talking about Finn's sex tape. Shay Kelly replied to Brendan Kelly. And here comes Brendan with the big mouth, laugh emoji. Finn Kelly replied to Brendan Kelly. Thanks, Dick, eye roll emoji. Brendan Kelly replied to Finn Kelly. Sorry, baby brain. Kate Kelly replied to Brendan Kelly. You can't blame everything on Arya. You were like this before. Declan Kelly. Am I the only one curious about what Owen and Blake's news actually is? Roddy Kaufman replied to Declan Kelly. I thought it was their engagement. Kate Kelly replied to Bridge Coughlin. They're already married. Eileen Kelly. You know, a picture would have at least been nice, Owen. Owen Forrester Kelly replied to Eileen Kelly. We got married over a year ago. Why are you only bringing this up now? Eileen Kelly replied to Owen Forrester Kelly. Because everyone else is. Connor Kelly. FFS, Owen, just tell us your news. Eileen Kelly replied to Connor Kelly. I know what those letters mean, Connor, and I don't like you using that language, even in code. Connor Kelly replied to Eileen Kelly. Eye roll emoji. Owen Forrester Kelly. Blake and I are foster parents. We're caring for a little boy named Ryder, and we're hoping to eventually adopt him officially. Kate Kelly replied to Owen Forrester Kelly. That's amazing! I'm so excited for you. Declan Kelly replied to Owen Forrester Kelly. That's awesome! How old is he? Owen Forrester Kelly replied to Declan Kelly. He's 3. Brendan Kelly replied to Owen Forrester Kelly. Skipping the newborn stage. Smart. Wink emoji. Eileen Kelly replied to Owen Forrester Kelly. This is lovely. When will you officially adopt him? Owen Forrester Kelly replied to Eileen Kelly. There are a lot of steps to go through with social services, etc., but we're hoping it will be sometime this year. Liam Kelly replied to Owen Forrester Kelly. Congrats! When do we get to meet him? Owen Forrester Kelly replied to Shay Kelly. He's a little shy right now, so we'll introduce him gradually. Our family can be a lot to take for new people. Eileen Kelly replied to Owen Forrester Kelly. Who says that? I've never heard that. Brendan Kelly. Yeah. If people don't like our family, they can hit the road. Liam Kelly replied to Brendan Kelly. Loving the sentiment, Bren, but I don't think you can say that to a 3-year-old. Owen Forrester Kelly replied to Brendan Kelly. Geez, calm down. I'm sure he'll love our family. We just want to give him time to adjust and ease into everything. Aiden Kelly replied to Owen Forrester Kelly. Congrats, guys. Do you have a pic? Owen Forrester Kelly. Sure do. Owen Forrester Kelly. Photo. Kate Kelly replied to Owen Forrester Kelly. Oh, he's such a cutie. Connor Kelly. You know, he kinda looks like Blake. Owen Forrester Kelly replied to Connor Kelly. That's obviously a coincidence. He's not related to Blake. Shay Kelly replied to Owen Forrester Kelly. You never know. Wouldn't be the first time an illegitimate child of Blake's turned up. Finn Kelly. I'm guessing this one won't end up engaged to Shay, laugh emoji. Alana Martin Kelly replied to Finn Kelly. Frankly, I'm surprised the other one did. Jamie's way too good for Shay. Wink emoji. Shay Kelly replied to Alana Martin Kelly. Hey, I'm right here. This has been Oh Come All Ye Kellys, Love and Luck, Book 7, written by Isla Olson, narrated by Nick J. Russo. Copyright 2020 by Isla Olson. Production copyright by Isla Olson.
Audible hopes you have enjoyed this program.